Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. And tonight we have the 2023 NFL Draft first round live reaction and watch party. And this should be a lot of fun. It's been heavily anticipated, this 2023 NFL Draft. And the Carolina Panthers, they are going to be drafting first overall. Will they take Bryce Young? Will they take CJ Stroud or somebody else? We have no idea. Most people think it's going to be Bryce Young, but it is about to happen. It is going to be very interesting for sure. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, everybody, for being here so far. And, man, this is going to be so much fun. The 2023 NFL Draft and the first pick should be coming in just a couple of minutes. This is going to be insane. Jackson's already here. Thanks for being here. He says if the first two picks are Bryce Young and Will Anderson, then the 2023 draft will be the first time since 2000 that the first two picks are from the same university. Now, that's crazy right there. I think that goes to show you, that a lot of times there's so many great players for so many different teams, it's very difficult to get guys that are from the same university to go 1 and 2. But I think that's a very interesting point for sure to make, Jackson, but really appreciate you for being here. Jackson also said the first two picks in the 2000 draft were Courtney Brown and LeVar Arrington. They both came from Penn State. While their Penn State has definitely not had a top pick like that in a long time, but it should be very interesting for sure. Who will the Carolina Panthers take? It's going to be coming up really soon. They're giving us just a little bit more anticipation. But I think looking at these two quarterbacks, who should the Panthers draft? Should it be Bryce Young? Should it be CJ Stroud? It's a fair question because you look at Frank Reich, the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Should he take a quarterback that he is used to having, a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", a taller quarterback that is mobile, like some of the quarterbacks he did have with the Indianapolis Colts, except that unfortunately most of them were not mobile, but still a bigger quarterback? Or he's going to take the wild card in Bryce Young, 5'10", 200 pounds, definitely undersized for a quarterback in the NFL. But still, even though there has not been a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that have been Bryce Young's size, usually we have also seen some players that have been really talented that are shorter than the average position, usually at wide receiver and some other positions. It's not usually the quarterback position. That's definitely something to be a bit worried about if you're a Carolina Panthers fan. Should they take that risk and take the 5'10" quarterback in Bryce Young, who shows all the ability to scramble? He's got a great arm, being able to throw the ball down the field, but can you trust him to stay healthy in key moments if he takes too many big hits? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens for sure. But I think either quarterback could be great for the Carolina Panthers. I don't blame him for trading up, even though unfortunately having to give up DJ Moore, that was a tough loss. DJ Moore is a great receiver. Is he one of the best in the NFL? Maybe not, but he's still a really solid receiver. The best they had by far. And then you look at some of the other players that the Panthers have on the offensive end. Their offensive line is not too bad, but it definitely needs improvement still. And they don't really have many great receivers. They did bring in Adam Thielen. But I think that whoever the quarterback is for the Panthers definitely will not be going to your normal, first round, first pick in the draft in the first round team. Usually they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. That's why they have the first overall pick, but the Panthers traded up for it. So I think that the Panthers made the right move because they needed a quarterback. They want to win. They have a really young team. And if you get a great quarterback like CJ Stroud or Bryce Young to potentially be able to pair with them, then I do think that overall the Panthers' future could be bright. They can't mess this pick up, and unfortunately we don't know who could be bust. We don't know which quarterback's going to perform better, who's going to perform at a high level in the NFL with all these quarterbacks and all these other positions, skill position players, defensive players. Sometimes you just have no idea. You can't do anything about it. You just cannot predict the future. But I will say that overall, looking at both of these players, they're really talented. It's very hard to see either of them failing. I know Bryce Young, he is definitely undersized, which is the biggest issue, but he is still a really talented player. But you would like to think that whoever the Panthers draft is really going to help them improve and potentially be able to help them in year one be able to make the NFL playoffs for the first time since 2017 when Cam Newton was still the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. And he was drafted first overall by the Panthers back in 2011, by far the best quarterback in that class. Andy Dalton was drafted as well, but besides that, none of the quarterbacks were that great. But still, the Panthers, for the first time in 12 years, are drafting first overall yet again because they traded up. And he is going to do his speech, and we're about to have the first pick in the NFL draft in 2023. Who will it be for the Carolina Panthers. Jeff says, I'm here and ready. Come on, Bryce. Come to Carolina. Definitely, for sure. You're an Alabama fan wanting Bryce to go to the Panthers. But whoever does not go to the Panthers could be in a bad spot because they're probably going to get drafted to a team that is in a lot worse shape than the Panthers. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens for sure. But we're getting so close. The anticipation is building up here. You've got the Carolina Panthers. They're on the clock. They probably already know who they're picking for sure. Way ago, there's been a lot of debate on how long they have known who they are picking. But it is coming down to this. The fans that are there, they are on their feet. They are ready for the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. But will it be Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud? I think, again, either quarterback would be great for the Panthers. I think the Panthers, again, still made the right move to trade up. They want to win. And sometimes settling for what you got is not going to get you to where you want to be. But trading up, they have potentially the quarterback of the future if they draft the quarterback that will help them win and be able to have success in the NFC South in the future, which the NFC South is definitely been not very good. So the Panthers could have a lot of success in the division next season if they draft the right quarterback, if they're able to come in and play immediately. You do have Andy Dalton now, but I don't know if Andy Dalton will be able to help them that much. But still, either of these quarterbacks could be huge overall for their success next season. I know Derek Carr is with the New Orleans Saints, but still, I think the Panthers could win the NFC South if they get the right quarterback here. They're drawing up, they're bringing up the drama here. Got a lot of speakers on stage, but they're about to pick the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, and we're going to find out who it is. Patrick Mahomes, he's coming out there on the stage as well. You've got all the big names out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Everybody is anticipating it for sure. But, man, it is going to be interesting. Look at all the fans. Even all the fans that they're not picking right now, off the bat. They're still out there. It's a lot of fun. This is once a year. In the NBA draft, you only have 60 picks. It is definitely not the same as the NFL draft that goes for 3 days all the way to the 7th round. And you can get diamond in the rough players later on in these draft rounds than you do have, sometimes in the NBA and these other, sports where there's not as long a draft. I know the MLB draft is long as well, but still, it's just something about the NFL draft. So many players coming from so many different schools. It is one of the most unique events every single year for a football fan. And so many people, they travel to wherever the NFL draft is going that year because they want to be there. They want to see these picks live, and it's a lot of fun for sure. I know a lot of people definitely enjoy the draft every single season. I think this draft potentially has a lot more intrigue than some of the past year's draft because of who the Panthers would draft. Who are they going to get? Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud? A lot of people have been debating it for a long time. But the moment of truth will be coming up after you still got Travis Kelce and you've got Patrick Mahomes up there with the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously they just won another Super Bowl, but still, it's about to come out who they're going to pick. After all the festivities are getting ended at the top of the stage, we're going to find out who they're going to draft. The Carolina Panthers are on the clock. They've got 10 minutes to make their decision, which I'm sure it will come in a lot quicker than that. But we're going to know. We are going to know who they're going to pick. And then whoever they pick, if it's Bryce Young, where's C.J. Stroud going to fall? How far will he fall? A lot of people are debating that as well. It's going to be very interesting for sure to see how far they could potentially fall. C.J. Stroud, will he fall to the 4th spot? Will he fall down to around 8 or 10? Who knows? And then you've also got the other quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. How far will those players fall as well? It's going to be very interesting. It is a domino effect. The further that these guys fall, the further that the next quarterback falls as well. So it's very interesting. But they're showing the trade. The Panthers received the 1st overall pick, and they gave the Bears the 9th overall pick that they did have, which a lot of people thought they might draft Anthony Richardson in that scenario. And they gave away a 2023 second-round pick, a 2024 first-round pick, a 2025 second-round pick, and DJ Moore to the Bears. And some people thought that the trade was bad. I don't think it was, especially if they get their quarterback in the future. The longer and better that whoever they draft plays, it becomes a winning trade for the Carolina Panthers. If it is, a bust, whoever they get, whichever quarter they get does not perform at a high level, then it probably will be a winning trade for the Chicago Bears, especially that they got DJ Moore, and whoever they drafted 9 is, if they're better, that will definitely help. But I do think overall that looking at the Carolina Panthers, whether this is going to be a successful trade is whoever they get becomes a success for sure. But they're showing Bryce Young's highlights right now. The 5'10", 200-pound quarterback, he can sling that ball all over the field. Yes, he had great receivers at Alabama, but he was able to get the ball to them, and he had, more pressure than some of the quarterbacks in the past had for Alabama, where he had to scramble around a lot. Their offensive line wasn't as good as it was in the past with some of their other quarterbacks. So Bryce Young really showed the ability to get out of the pocket, to be able to avoid taking those tough hits, which I think could help translate over to the NFL, where he's definitely going to have to find a way to avoid those big pass rushes. You do not want to take big hits in the NFL. Somebody like Nick Bosa, you don't want to get hit by him. Micah Parsons, that would not be good for Bryce Young at all. But I do think that looking at Bryce Young, he is a guy that can scramble around and he can get out of danger. He can find a way to throw on the run as well. He can scramble and get 5-10 yards and try to do it without taking hits. CJ Stroud, people knocked the fact that he did not run when he was with Ohio State, but he was a guy that could run. He showed it in that Georgia game. He just chose not to run that much, but still they both can run. It's going to be very interesting. Will and D, thanks for being here. Willie says, are you guys worried about Bryce being too small? The D-line might bat down his passes. That's a good point. He is very short. He said that he struggled to see over offensive linemen that are really tall. And most offensive linemen in the NFL are 6'5", 6'4", 6'6". They're very tall. And then you also look at the D-line, like you said, they could bat down his passes. It's very interesting for sure. I think that his size is an issue. If he was 6'3", 6'4", there's a great chance that Bryce Young would easily be the first pick in the draft. But the fact that he's short definitely hurts his chances, I think, of being perceived as the easy first overall pick. But again, whoever the Panthers draft, it is their decision. It's going to come down to who they want at the quarterback spot. Do they want a shorter quarterback with the skills to run? Or do they want a taller guy like CJ Stroud that can maybe take more hits, that maybe has more of the intangibles you're looking for with a quarterback? But Bryce Young definitely is that wild card option. And we are about to find out. Again, the drama, it is building. Everybody wants to know who the Panthers are going to draft. And CJ Stroud, for the longest time, it felt like he was going to be the first overall pick in the draft. Maybe it was going to be to the Bears. And then now when the Panthers end up getting the first overall pick, people were talking about that as well. But I do think that still, people were still looking at CJ Stroud about a couple weeks ago. Then it flipped over to Bryce Young. More people are saying it should be Bryce Young. So very interesting there. It definitely flipped as time went on. But again, it doesn't matter. All the smoke that we have seen with it is all going to come down to this pick and who ultimately the Panthers draft. Jackson says, nope, Bryce will be okay, especially when he gets drafted by Frank Wright and the Carolina Panthers. The NFC South is all Carolinas. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Carolina fans that hope your statement is accurate, Jackson, for sure. Because of the fact you definitely want to have success. You do not want to have it where, you're looking at the NFC South being very weak and then the Panthers are still losing. That you don't want that to happen. That should not happen. You definitely should be able to win. You definitely should be able to have a lot of success in the NFC South, which is very weak. Buckeye Mike, thanks for being here. Says whoever the pick is will be big, but likely a bust, as all ones tend to be bust. I don't know. That's not necessarily true. You look at Trevor Lawrence, he's having a lot of success. That's not always true. The first overall pick can be successful. You are right. There have been a lot of busts, but I think it just comes down to the expectations are sometimes, as a player, those expectations just overwhelm you. You start to struggle. But I don't think that all ones are busts. So it's going to be very interesting for sure. But you are right that there have been a lot of busts at the first overall pick. Could also not be OFC, but likelihood is very high. Very interesting there. Jeff says, Jackson, I agree. He'll be fine. He is awesome. I agree. I think that Bryce Young will be able to handle it. He definitely has the poise and ability to do so, but it's still very interesting overall. Will he have a lot of success being able to throw over taller guys? I don't know how much success he will have. As long as he doesn't get hurt, I think that's his biggest issue because he can get out of the pocket and throw on the run, which will negate the ability of not being able to throw over those tall linemen. But still, he can get hurt, and he is a really small player, so he could get hurt. But it is getting so close. They're showing the Panthers draft room. There's 3:50 left on the clock for the Panthers. They're still not coming out with their pick, but the anticipation is building. It is insane. It's unreal how much people want to know this pick. It is a big deal for sure. The Panthers, first time they've had the first overall pick. in a very long time, since 2011 when they drafted Cam Newton at number 1. And he had a great career for the Panthers from 2011 to 2017. And then it started to go downhill. He took way too many hits. Hopefully Bryce Young or CJ Stroud will be able to last longer overall for the Carolina Panthers. You'd hope that it would not be, too long where they're going to get hurt and then you won't have him at quarterback anymore and you got to go with someone else. You hope they would last a lot longer than Cam Newton. Jeff says he is a very intelligent quarterback. I agree with that. That is a great statement there, Jeff. 100%. Bryce Young is intelligent. He's a very smart player. And some people were talking about CJ Stroud on that test. Maybe somehow he did not do as good of a job on that test with the, having to be rushed at and all that kind of stuff as Bryce Young did. But sometimes we're not 100% sure if that was accurate as well. I think CJ Stroud is definitely a smart quarterback as well. He's a very good quarterback, and he can definitely process and read all of the routes as well. But still, people have definitely said Bryce Young is potentially more intelligent overall. But it's going to be very interesting. Buckeye Mike says the anticipation is killer. I agree. Everybody is wanting to know, and the pick is in for the Panthers. They are about to go up there and read the pick. You see Bryce Young. He's wanting to know, will he be a Carolina Panther or will he be going to another NFL team? It's got to be crazy for these players as well. Yes, you're going to be making a lot of money, but the fact you're going to be moving to another place, a whole new area to be playing for a team, I think that's a really interesting thing that a lot of people don't look at. You're going from a college team to an NFL team. Sometimes, you look at it where they were in high school and then they go to a college that's near where they are, and then they go to the pros. That's probably when it affects them more. But a lot of these guys did come from different areas. Like Bryce Young, he already was from California, so going to Alabama was far away. So I don't think it's as big of an impact there. But still, it does make an impact on their lives. They are moving around. They're going to a different team and, in a different location. So it's very interesting for sure. Jeff says, come on, Bryce. They are coming out there. Roger Goodell, the pick is in. The selection, he is about to read it. It's coming down to this. Will it be Bryce Young or will it be CJ Stroud? It's so close. We're about to know for sure. Roger Goodell, the pick is Bryce Young. He took Bryce Young. Unbelievable. Bryce Young is taken as the first pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, quarterback out of Alabama. He is going to the Carolina Panthers. Unbelievable. CJ Stroud, it did not work out. He did not go to the Panthers. It ended up being Bryce Young out of Alabama, the short quarterback, but he has all the skills and intangibles to be really successful. I cannot believe Bryce Young was taken. Jackson said Bryce is officially a Panther. Yes, I cannot believe it for sure. Bryce Young, he is putting on the Carolina Panthers hat, and he is definitely very excited for sure. Jackson Johnson is 100% correct. Bryce Young is a Carolina Panther. Very interesting there. I cannot believe it. They did take Bryce Young. A lot of people did not expect that to happen. They said first Alabama player draft number 1 in common draft era. That is also insane, as well as many great players as Alabama has had. But it happens there. Jeff says he's very happy. Heck yeah, for sure. Buckeye Mike's bad call. Not surprising there at all. Definitely might wanted CJ Stroud to go to Carolina, but Bryce Young is taken over CJ Stroud. I'm shocked a bit. I'm not 100% shocked because of all, the smoke saying that Bryce Young was going to be taken, but CJ Stroud was definitely the quarterback that Frank Reich would have been more used to, that he definitely has had more often. But Bryce Young, again, that tantalizing ability to run the football and throw it a high level on the run, the Carolina Panthers have taken Bryce Young. I'm not too surprised, but still, whoever it was going to be, it would have been a big shock for sure. We were very excited to find out who this pick was going to be. Very excited. I know a lot of people in the chat are excited. Really appreciate all you guys for being here. And I know that a lot of people in Carolina were excited for this pick. But they have taken Bryce Young. The wait is over, and now they're going to have to find a way to get to work. Will Bryce Young have a lot of success with the Carolina Panthers? We will be seeing just starting next year in this next NFL season. But the Panthers do take Bryce Young. Jackson said for the first time ever in school history, Alabama's the number 1 draft pick. It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Jeff says, awesome, man. Jeff is so happy. Mike is not happy at all, for sure, but I get it. very frustrating for CJ Stroud. But Bryce Young is the first pick in the draft. He is being talked to right now. He's being interviewed, and you can tell how happy he is. I mean, you think about it. You're in a draft class with, thousands of players, not thousands, but around hundreds to around 1,000 players that could be drafted out of college football. You think about that. That's a lot of players, and you're taken first overall by a team. They're picking you over every other player from college football and wherever, a player is coming from. That is insane. And Bryce Young, that has to be a surreal moment for him, being able to be taken first overall. That is crazy. I'm very proud for Bryce Young. I'm very happy for him. I would have been happy for whoever was taken number one, but it ended up being Bryce Young. The question is no longer a question. Bryce Young has been taken by the Carolina Panthers. Insane. They're showing the highest draft Alabama quarterback since 1967, Mac Jones, Richard Todd, Tua Tagovailoa, all drafted in the top 20, but Bryce Young taken first overall in 2023. Insane. That is unbelievable for sure. I cannot believe it. This is insane. But there's going to be a lot more picks in this draft. It's not just Bryce Young. It's not just him. There is a whole other, all the 30 picks. I think there's 31 picks because the Miami Dolphins got one of their picks taken away. Still the whole first round to go. All these other players are going to be drafted as well. And a lot of teams are either, it's going to be a make or break pick that could potentially help their team this season in the NFL. The draft is still really important. So many great players you can get, but definitely a big, massive pick by the Panthers drafting Bryce Young first overall. That is insane right there. I just cannot believe it. What a pick by the Panthers. They went with the shorter quarterback. But who will the Houston Texans pick? They have the second pick in the draft. Some people are thinking that it could be Will Anderson. Will Anderson could go second overall because the Texans are a team that did get DeMeco Ryans as their new head coach, and he is a defensive-minded head coach. Will he take a defensive player in Will Anderson, or will he take a quarterback? Houston does need a quarterback, but they don't really have a great offensive line. You don't want whoever you do draft to, get hurt back there, whether it's CJ Stroud. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in that regard. It's going to be very interesting to see who will the Houston Texans take at number 2. And I think that they probably do need to go defense since DeMeco Ryans is a defensive-minded head coach. But I will say that you do want to make sure that you are drafting the best player available. So if you think Will Anderson is the best player available, then that's who you got to go with. But you do need to make sure that you are drafting the right player, and you want to be able to get the best guy you can possibly get. You don't want to make a mistake and draft somebody that isn't, for that spot. And you need to draft from need as well. The Houston Texans do need a quarterback, but you got the defensive-minded head coach. So it's whatever they're going to prioritize. They probably will take a defensive player, but it's going to be very interesting. Jeff says, I got my pick. I'm good. Laughing out loud for sure. And I'm sure there's a lot of mixed opinions of this. Some people are going to be really happy that it was Bryce Young. Some are not. Depending on who you are a fan of in college, depending on who you feel would have been a better quarterback for the Panthers. It's very interesting for sure. Definitely a lot of different opinions there, but I do feel like overall it still was a good decision by the Panthers to take Bryce Young. CJ Stroud had been the only other one you could possibly take. And wow, the Texans do take CJ Stroud. Unbelievable. They did take CJ Stroud. I am really shocked there. I thought they would go defense because of DeMeco Ryans, but they went offense. I think that's a good pick. Yeah, I think you got to go with the best player available, and you can make a definite argument that C.J. Stroud is the next best player available. The Houston Texans, they do draft C.J. Stroud, quarterback out of Ohio State. He is the second pick in the draft. 2 quarterbacks are taken first and second overall. Probably more shocking that the Texans did take C.J. Stroud. But I don't blame him. I don't think that's a bad pick at all. I think that you could potentially argue made the right pick there. I mean, you do need a quarterback. They definitely do need a quarterback overall. Jack said, well, history won't be made for Bama tonight, but that's okay. Yeah, I thought they'd take Will Anderson. I really did. I thought they would go on the defense side of the ball, a defensive player, but they decided that they needed a quarterback as well, and they went with C.J. Stroud. Insane there. I think that you could potentially say that that's a good move. They needed a quarterback. Nothing against Davis Mills. He was solid overall. for, the Houston Texans at the time. He had no time to throw those. So they're going to have to draft some linemen. I think he was actually better earlier on in the season. He kind of regressed. Maybe he lost his confidence. That could have been part of the issue, but interesting. Buckeye Mike's as well. CJ Stroud career is over. I mean, that is a bad way to look at it for sure. A negative way, a pessimistic way, but you could be right though. You definitely could be right because of the fact, unfortunately, the Texans have a bad offensive line. That's why I thought they would go defense. But they're drafting a quarterback, but they are going to have to protect CJ Stroud, or his career will not last long in any way, shape, or form. There's just no way that it possibly can if he's not going to be protected. But he definitely, more likely, will stand a better chance to have success, overall, looking at, his body type versus Bryce Young, because of the fact, looking at Bryce Young, he's a much smaller player. He probably wouldn't have any chance with the Texans. Maybe CJ Stroud will be able to handle the pressure, but if they do get a couple good offensive line, maybe it will be okay. Buckeye Mike says CJ should tell Houston he wants trade via Eli Manning 2004. I mean, I understand for sure why it's frustrating with CJ Stroud being with the Texans because they don't have a good offensive line, but I think they had to go quarterback. But they do need to get some linemen. Jeff says you have to give him a shot, Mike. I agree. I think you do have to give him a shot for sure. But it's crazy. Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, the two guys that have been debated the entire time for the last couple of weeks. Who was going to go one? Would the next one go two? And they did. Bryce Young went first out of Alabama. CJ Stroud went second for Ohio State to the Houston Texans. The Panthers, though, getting Bryce Young. I think he will be in better shape than CJ Stroud for sure, which is probably where Buckeye Mike's frustration comes in. And I definitely can understand that for sure, because you definitely want to be able to have success right off the bat in the NFL. And it's just not going to happen if you are not going to be able to stand in the pocket and you're going to get hurt. You look at Justin Fields with the Chicago Bears. It's really tough for him as well because of the fact he's getting hit over and over and over again. It's just not a good situation for him at all, being, with the Chicago Bears. And that's why some people thought they would get another quarterback. But I still think Fields is good, but you got to get players around him. I think the trade with the Panthers will help. I think that they'll be able to potentially have that weapon with DJ Moore, with, obviously Justin Fields being able to throw the ball to him. And if they can get some linemen, maybe the Bears will be better in the future. But I do think Bryce Young got drafted in the better spot. CJ Stroud is probably very happy for sure to be taken second overall. It's still a big honor to be taken second overall, but still, very tough overall to be able to have to go to a team like the Houston Texans who have a really bad offensive line. Buckeye Mike says, yes, you're right, Jay. I just would have preferred CJ to Indy. Yeah, I think Indianapolis would have been a bit better, but still Indianapolis didn't have the greatest offensive line either. Maybe they had a few more pieces to be built around CJ Stroud off the jump, which is why they have the fourth pick, but still, I don't think that would have been the greatest either. Buckeye Mike says, as long as Houston makes the right moves, rest of the draft and offseason to give him a line of weapons, he will be okay. See, there you go. There's a positive outlook, Mike. There you go. All you got to do is get some offensive linemen. All you got to do is be able to try to build as much as you possibly can around CJ Stroud. Now, if they don't, CJ Stroud could be in some trouble. But if they do, CJ Stroud might be okay. So there you go. Definitely a more positive outlook. Still appreciate you for being here, Mike, but definitely that is a good outlook to have. You definitely don't want to, throw it out and not say that there's any chance for CJ Stroud to have success with Houston. You definitely want to have that optimistic point of view. And I think that there is potential success that CJ Stroud could have with Houston, but they're going to have to build around him. But I agree with Jeff as well. He is 100% correct. The two best players needed to go 1 and 2. I think so. I think overall you definitely have to take these two at the top. They're definitely the best. I mean, there's some really good players that are about to be taken, and it's still going to be big prizes for these teams. But Bryce Young and CJ Stroud needed to be taken. I agree. Bryce Young was a really talented player, had a lot of success with the Alabama Crimson Tide last few seasons. And then you look at CJ Stroud, same thing with Ohio State. They both were very talented. Yes, they had some of the best receivers to throw to. Maybe you could argue CJ Stroud had more at Ohio State, but they both are really good quarterbacks. And I think that overall, both will be great for their respective teams. Potentially Bryce Young earlier on because the Panthers are in better shape. But then you do have CJ Stroud with Ohio State going to the Houston Texans. He's definitely going to have that adjustment period, especially considering how potentially bad that Houston's team could be next season. It's going to be an adjustment period. Hopefully he will be okay. But still, it's going to be interesting. But the Arizona Cardinals, they trade their pick to the Houston Texans. Unbelievable. The Cardinals, they had the 3rd overall pick in the draft, and they just traded the pick to the Texans. Now I think the Texans are going to take Will Anderson. I think that that's going to happen because you do look at, the Texans. They are a defensive-minded team with a defensive-minded head coach in D'Amico Ryans. They got C.J. Stroud, and they just traded with the Cardinals for that 3rd pick. I think they're going to take Will Anderson. I could be wrong. Maybe they won't take Will Anderson, but I definitely think that they will. That's why they traded for that 3rd pick. Could be a good move. Like Mike said, I just need to get my fanatic moment out of me first. You're good, man, for sure. I definitely understand your frustration, but still, definitely could have success with Houston. I know that you could argue they need an offensive lineman, but you got to take best available player, and I think that Will Anderson is your best available player. Yes, he didn't have as good of a season for Alabama this past year as he did the year before that, but I think you got to go Will Anderson for this 3rd overall pick. You're trading up. You got to get a defensive player. He is a stud. He is a fantastic football player. Mike says, yes, it did, Jeff. It's just funny how if it would have been flipped, people would say Bryce's career is over. Either way, it was an overreaction. I agree with it for sure. And it probably would be more. It probably would be if Bryce was being picked 2nd. It probably would be more the fact that he wouldn't have a chance because of his small frame. They would be saying that his career is over. So I agree with you. I think that if you flip it, definitely Bryce would have been the one that they would be saying would have a worse, chance to have success with Houston than CJ. CJ probably will because he has the bigger body, might be able to take more hits, and hopefully he won't get hit too much and they can get some offensive linemen. But we're about to find out the 3rd pick in the NFL draft. The pick is in. They're about to be brought for the Texans. It was the Arizona Cardinals, but they traded that pick to the Houston Texans. Roger Goodell, he is coming out, and he is about to announce, did the Houston Texans take Will Anderson? Did they go with a defensive player? The selection is in. Roger Goodell says that the pick is for the Houston Texans. He's about to do it. And I think they might have gone with Will Anderson. I think they did. Let's see. And they do. Will Anderson, linebacker out of Alabama. I thought that's what they were going to do. They went with the quarterback and C.J. Stroud. Then they traded up and they got Will Anderson, the guy they probably would have taken at number 2 if they didn't trade for number 3. Smart move, I think, by the Texans. You still need offensive linemen, but they just took Will Anderson Jr., linebacker out of Alabama. Crazy right there. Jeff says, Mike, it's all good. I understand for sure. But Will Anderson, he did not have as good of a season this past year for Alabama, but he is still a fantastic football player. And I think that he will potentially have a lot of success with the Houston Texans, be able to beef up their defense. Jeff says, how about those Bama boys? Mike says, I love this move. I agree with both of you for sure. I think this is a good move. That was a sweet move by the Houston Texans. You got your quarterback. Now you've got the top defender in the draft. And now probably next pick needs to be an offensive lineman or a receiver. That would probably be the next best move. Buckeye Mike says, we got our guys. So now he is a Houston Texans fan for sure with C.J. Stroud at quarterback and hoping they will have a lot of success. But now they are showing the Will Anderson film. He is a fantastic player. Whereas C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young can both pass the football at a high level in a variety of ways, Will Anderson off the edge is unbelievable. Coming around and getting sacks, he is unbelievable. Jackson says, big win for the Texans. I agree. Mike says, see, I'm a Texan. I knew you would be. You would definitely be happy with the fact that they took Will Anderson Jr. You have now Bryce Young to the Panthers, C.J. Stroud, and Will Anderson now to the Texans. Jackson, I thought you were a Bengals fan. He's only a Texans fan because they got C.J. Stroud, Jackson. That's why. He's happy that C.J. Stroud's with the Texans, and now he's trying to definitely get behind that. He thinks C.J. Stroud's career will be over, and he's happy now they got Will Anderson, thinking they could have some success. But I think Will Anderson's a great move. Outside linebacker, and he's built like almost like a defensive lineman. He's not that big, but he is huge, but he's got that burst of speed. He will be a problem for opposing quarterbacks and offensive linemen in the NFL next season. He is a great player for sure. But that is the 3rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. And now the 4th pick is going to be with the Indianapolis Colts, unless the Colts trade their pick, but I doubt it. But will the Colts take a quarterback? Will they take Will Levis or Anthony Richardson? It's going to be very interesting for sure. Or will they take a defensive player or a skill position player? Still a lot of big picks to happen to come in this first round. And it's definitely not just the top few picks that matter. Buckeye Mike says, I'm all over, man. Yeah, I can definitely tell your emotions are all over the place. That's what makes events like these so cool for sure. You cannot beat the NFL draft. The atmosphere is insane. Man, Mike, you are a bandwagon fan. I have to say, I wear the bandwagon flag with pride. I mean, hey, some people are bandwagon fans. No big deal. You are what you are, and it's sometimes being a bandwagon fan can be a lot of fun for sure. Jeff says it could be Levis. I mean, you could be right. I've heard a lot of people say that Will Levis is going to the Colts. And I mean, I don't think that that's a bad move. I mean, I don't think Will Levis is not a great quarterback. I just don't know if he's the fourth pick in the draft. When you're drafting this high, you got to take the best player. Maybe you need a quarterback, and maybe Will Levis in their minds is the best quarterback. It could be. But Anthony Richardson's out there as well. I'm still debating whether Anthony Richardson or Will Levis is better. Me personally, I probably would go with Anthony Richardson just because he has that running ability at a high level. But still, either or, it's interesting. I don't know. You could go really either way with it. Buckeye Mike thinks that it will be Anthony Richardson. Jeff thinks it could be Levis. It could be either or if they take a quarterback. But they could surprise us and not take anyone else. Mike says Jackson Smith-Njigba to the Bears at number 9. That could be true. You never know. Jackson says Hendon Hooker is better than Levis and Richardson combined. I agree with you, Jackson, but unfortunately that ACL tear is what's going to move him down. If he didn't have that ACL tear, he probably would be a first-round draft pick. But unfortunately, when you're not like a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud and you do get hurt and you're lower in the draft, you're not going to be able to move up to the first round. He had a great season, though. And I definitely think potentially Hendon Hooker could be better than both of those players. But I do think that that's why he's not going to be a first-round draft pick because he tore his ACL. It's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. But I agree with you. But it's going to be interesting. Jeff says I agree as well. Hendon Hooker was great in Tennessee this past season. But sometimes I know that we talk about upside a lot more in college basketball. They take with potential and upside than in the pros. Usually with the pros, they take the best. But sometimes in the pros, they go with upside. And someone like Anthony Richardson has upside, but he's going to have that talent be tapped out of him. Mike says Hooker probably a day 2 guy due to injury. Again, completely agree. Jackson will be wild if the Bears to draft Jackson Smith-Njigba. The NFC North is there for the taking. Yeah, that division is looking very weak, just like the NFC South. And I think getting Jackson Smith-Njigba would be a good addition for the Chicago Bears. Be able to pair him with DJ Moore as well could be interesting. But Mike says, but should be a top 5 to 10 pick. I agree. Angelo is here. Thanks for being here. Angelo says, how about you think the 49ers will make a deal to move up in the draft? I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, they could. I mean, overall, looking at, this draft, there's been a lot of interesting moves being made. You saw the Cardinals trade their pick over to the Texans. That was a very interesting move there, but it ended up being probably the right move. But I think that it's possible that they could trade up. I don't know where, and I don't know if they will, but it's definitely a good proposition for sure. But the pick is in for the Indianapolis Colts. We're about to know who the 4th pick in the draft is after the top 3. Will they take a quarterback or will they go with somebody else? The Colts, definitely, they probably do need a quarterback. But their offensive line is not that great as well. And they do take Anthony Richardson. They went with the upside. Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida that some people say really struggles to throw the football, but he can run all up and down that field. And if he can start to throw the football at a high level as well, Anthony Richardson could be great in the NFL. He is taken 4th overall to the Colts. The Indianapolis Colts, they went with Anthony Richardson. Unbelievable there. I cannot believe they chose Anthony Richardson, but very interesting. I think that overall, he could have a lot of success in the NFL, but he's definitely going to have to be a guy that finds a way to throw the ball, at a higher level. He really struggles to pass at times. He just does not pass the ball well sometimes. He throws it over receivers' head. That's his biggest issue. It's not really the fact he can't throw the ball far, because he's kind of like Cam Newton in that regard, that he can throw the ball very far down the field, but it's the intermediate passes that he struggles to get those 10 to 15-yard completions. The throws sail over the receiver's head, and that's where he struggles. But still, a very interesting pick nonetheless. And the Colts do take Anthony Richardson. Mike goes, well, you definitely were right there. Jackson says Colts are up for disappointment. Interesting. I think that overall, looking at it, could be a bust. When you're looking at someone like Anthony Richardson, it's hard to say whether it's going to be a success or a fail, because you just don't know what you're going to get out of Anthony Richardson. He could improve, but I mean, looking at the natural talent that he possesses, it's unreal. But he does struggle to pass the football. consistently. Mike says he likes the move. I think it could be good. It definitely gives you that upside for sure. Jeff says we were both wrong, laughing out loud. I mean, hey, it was either probably going to be Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. Those were the top two left of the quarterbacks. I think Will Levis will drop a bit. I don't think anybody's going to take him for maybe the next 5 to 10 picks, but who knows? Could be wrong. Jack said, well, you win some, you lose some. Hey, at least you didn't have any money on the pick or nothing like that. You just thinking that who it could be. But still, Anthony Richardson getting picked to the Colts at number 4, maybe a little high. A lot of people were saying he shouldn't even be a first-round draft pick a couple months ago, but he did show out at the Combine, and he definitely was playing some high-level football and showing his skills there, and I think that's what ultimately helped him move up. That potential is just unreal with Richardson. Jeff says Jackson True, laughing out loud, for sure. But Colts fans, they seem really happy about the pick. Hopefully it does work out for him. I think that it could. It definitely could. Mike's just trying to be humble. I think this is an interesting move. Just have to give him weapons. Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that he's going to have, players around. But the mobility is what they're showing right now on his tape. He can get out of almost any sack. That's where his strengths lie. Unfortunately for him, though, it's the passing ability. They're showing NFL comparison to Donovan McNabb. That's an interesting comparison. I think it is kind of valid. They both could run the football at a high level, and they did both struggle to pass. Jeff says Hooker was amazing before he got hurt, but that's football. I agree with you. Hooker definitely would have been a first-round draft pick more than likely, but he just unfortunately got hurt. But they're showing another thing. The arm strength's there for Richardson. The mobility's there, but it's about being able to be able to settle down those throws, make those intermediate passes, and not throw the ball over a receiver's head where it will be picked off. That would be his biggest issue. But if he can do that, then I think this will be a good pick for the Colts. But this one is definitely more of a wait-and-see mode for sure. We're not going to really know how good Anthony Richardson could or will be for the Colts until a little bit down the line. It's definitely not going to be one of those situations, where we're probably going to know in his rookie year. With Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, they could be good out of the gate. C.J. Stroud will have a tough time with the Texans, but he could be really good. With Anthony Richardson, we don't know. Anthony Richardson, it could be a struggle fest for him. He could really struggle trying to adapt to reading those routes and trying to read these great defensive players in the NFL. He could really struggle, especially if he is starting for the Colts. Don't know if he will or not. He might. But if he is starting, it's going to be an adjustment period. I think it's going to take him time. It could be like Josh Allen where it takes a year or two. But still, the upside is there. I think the Colts, you could potentially say, made the right decision to get Anthony Richardson if it does work out. But who knows? It's going to be very interesting to see. We don't know if it's going to work out or not. I mean, it definitely could. I think, again, his upside is potentially higher than Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. Anthony Richardson is very talented, but still very interesting for sure. Just has a lot of growth that's going to happen for him to be able to reach the potential that he will want to reach. Buckeye Mike says, can CJ bring Houston a Super Bowl? Now, that's a good one. I think that, you're going to have to get players around. You're going to have to get talent around. It's going to take a long time. If CJ can hold up and not get hurt, and as long as he's able to play at a high level, I think that it could take 5 or 10 years. You never know. Buckeye Mike saying Houston versus Carolina, Super Bowl 60, calling it now. Now, that's funny. I think overall, you never know. I mean, definitely Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, very talented players. But it's going to be interesting to see if they both develop as a team, on their team, and the team around them develops. If both of those things happen, we could see Super Bowl 60 being Houston versus Carolina. But you still have so many great teams right now in the NFL. The Chiefs are still going to be good with Patrick Mahomes then, I'm sure, as long as he's still healthy. Joe Burrow, all these guys are not going anywhere, and they will not be gone by then. So definitely the NFL is going to have a lot of competition for that spot. Mike says Houston will win Super Bowl 60 if that's the case. I don't know about that because C.J. Stroud is not going to have a shot with the team that they currently have. The Panthers are way better than the Texans. Texans have not been good in a long time. So if I had to say right now, I would say the Panthers would beat Houston in that scenario. But if Houston's getting to the Super Bowl, they'll probably be a much better team than they are right now anyway. But still, they're going to have a lot of growing up to do as a team. Their team is not great. That's why they were one of the worst teams in the NFL this past season. They were horrible. So they're going to have to do a lot better. If they can get players around C.J. Stroud and draft defense and draft offense, I think that they have the potential to be really good. And like you said, maybe by Super Bowl 60, if they're really good, they could win it all. You're not wrong. They could do some really good things, but they have a lot of work to do, a lot more work than the Panthers actually do right now. Angelo says Seattle was surprisingly good last season. I think they have options for sure. And it's always good when you're drafting this high when you're not the worst team. That's why the Panthers trading up, even though they had to give stuff away to get, that draft pick at number 1. Still, they're not the worst team, so they have pieces around who they just drafted in Bryce Young. Seattle's not a bad team. They made the playoffs. They weren't really bad last year. Geno Smith improved, and he's, showing that he actually is a decent quarterback, maybe actually a good quarterback. He played really solid last season, and he made the Pro Bowl. So I think that overall for Seattle, probably draft a defender. I'm not sure who they're going to end up drafting, but I would think that they would draft a defender. Their defense wasn't bad, but it did give up some points this past season. So that's interesting for sure. But I think that overall, very shocking that we saw out of the first 4 picks in the draft, 3 of them were quarterbacks. Some people thought that would happen. And I think that some people are vindicated in that they got that right. Some people were not thinking that was going to occur. But that is what we got here with Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, and C.J. Stroud all being taken in the top 4. And Will Anderson got picked at number 3. I think that is not too surprising now that you really think about it. But still, we have not seen 3 quarterbacks taken in the top 4 in a long time. Very interesting. But the Seahawks, their pick is in, and they're about to announce who it's going to be. I think it's going to be a defender. Could be wrong. There's always the chance that you are wrong, but I would think that they are going to go with some defense because they do need some defenders. And it would probably, kind of even it up a bit with all of the quarterbacks being taken to take a defender. Maybe we'll see a skill position player. But I really do think that they will take a defender at this number 5 pick. But it's going to be very interesting for sure. The Seahawks pick is in, and they are about to announce it. But I really appreciate all you guys for being in the NFL draft. It's been a lot of fun so far. It's been a lot of fun. Definitely very interesting for sure to see these picks come in. It's always a lot of fun. And the Seattle Seahawks, their pick is in. And the Seahawks, they select Devon Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois. I thought they would go defense, and they did. Devon Witherspoon, he's a guy that really moved up the draft boards. He was not a guy that was projected to be taken this high earlier on, in this, this draft season. Definitely a guy that was a lot lower, but still Devon Witherspoon, he moved up. And when you play at a high level and then you're able to be a guy that improves over time, and then you have a good draft combine like Devon Witherspoon did, you can move up to incredible heights in the draft. And he just got drafted 5th overall. 3 quarterbacks, 1 player in Will Anderson we knew was going to be taken out, but you're Devon Witherspoon being drafted 5th overall. That is a big honor. And I think that not too surprising considering how much he did improve. Clint Moses, thanks for being here. Says, go Hawks. He says Seahawks for sure. Obviously, you're a Seahawks fan. Thanks for being here. And I think they got a good player in Devon Witherspoon. They're showing some of his big hits that he did when he was at Illinois. He definitely had some big moments for the Fighting Illini for sure. But he's definitely a guy that has a lot of potential. He's a great defender on the ball. He doesn't always get interceptions, but he hits really hard. He plays at a high level. He's got a big frame as well, which definitely helps with corners because they're going to be able to take those hits that sometimes you have to take to get players down. So I think Devon Witherspoon definitely is a good pick here for the Seattle Seahawks from the Fighting Illini. I think he definitely is a good player. I'm not too surprised he was drafted this high because he moved up in a lot of people's minds in this draft as time went on. He just got drafted 5th overall. But now you're going to have the Detroit Lions at number 6. Detroit is an improving team as well. They definitely are showing a lot of potential to be good in the future. And they could get a player here. You would think either maybe a skill position player or a defensive player as well. I think it really could go either way. But it's going to be interesting for sure. I think that overall, the draft is going kind of as expected so far. I think the biggest one was really that trade and how we thought maybe Will Anderson would get taken 2nd overall, but they took C.J. Stroud, and then they decided overall Will Anderson at number 3 instead of number 2. I think a smart move by the Texans. Surprising the Cardinals traded that pick away. But then we saw Anthony Richardson go number 4 out of Florida to the Colts, and now Devon Witherspoon. Now you've got the Detroit Lions with the number 6 pick, will they take a defensive player? Will they take an offensive player? But Devon Witherspoon, he has got to be happy being taken with the 5th pick in the draft. That is still a big honor. All of these picks. And when you're a first-round draft pick, that's insane. I mean, you are, at the top of your class. Of all these players that are, potentially going to be able to be drafted and you're taken in the first round, you're higher than all the other players. That's crazy for sure. And a big move by the Seattle Seahawks to get Devon Witherspoon. Buckeye Mike said this is a good move here by Seattle. Jeff says great player. I agree. I think he is definitely a good addition. I mean, he definitely has some concerns, maybe, on sometimes not picking the ball off, but he hits so hard that sometimes just getting a pass breakup is good enough. He hits at a high level, and he's definitely a guy that does not give up ground very often. When you're trying to be able to stay with a receiver, he doesn't give ground. He's very quick, and he hits hard. So I think that is a good addition for the Seattle Seahawks defense, which definitely needs some help because their defense did give up some points this past season. Buckeye Mike said Witherspoon is a defensive beast. Gave Michigan issues coming from the outside off the edge. And when you're a cornerback that's good off the edge, that's great as well because you can blitz. And when you can blitz, that shows you have that durability factor. You're not a fragile corner where you can't get down low and be able to hit some of those bigger running backs and the quarterback. I think it's a great sign for Devon Witherspoon in that regard, in the fact that he is able to do those things. He has the frame, he has the body to do that. And he is, a fairly big corner. So he's not too small. He's not too short where, that's a problem. So I think overall he just has good size. He has good length. And I think it's a good pick for Seattle. But definitely, I like all the picks so far. I think maybe you could question Anthony Richardson at number 4, but still, he's such a high upside, high potential player that I understand. I get why the Colts took him. But Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, I totally get it. Will Anderson as well, since the Texans did what they did. I like all the picks so far, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens as more of these picks come in. Buckeye Mike could be the next Darrelle Revis. Great vision when reading the quarterback, for sure. And you have to have good vision. You got to know what the quarterback's going to do. And when the quarterback sometimes is looking the other way, sometimes that means he's going to be coming back your way. So you got to stick. Maybe give a little bit of ground to bait the quarterback to throw the ball, but then that's when you turn on the jets and pick the ball off, or at least try to knock the ball out of the receiver's hands. Got to do it. You have to do a really good job of reading the quarterback's eyes, because that's what's going to tell you if you're in position or out of position as a cornerback in the NFL. And you have to be a really high IQ player to be a corner in the NFL. These receivers are so talented. You got to stick with them, and they're moving all around. The faster the receiver is, the tougher it makes it for these corners. That's why the NFL loves to take speedsters at receiver, because it's so tough for the corners to stop them. And then you got to read the eyes of the quarterback. So many quarterbacks in the NFL are way better than the ones in college at being able to fake, these corners out and be able to, fake the ball and throw it the other way or whatever they're going to do with the football. So definitely have to be a high IQ player to be a cornerback in the NFL. But still, some crazy action in the 2023 NFL draft. Only 5 picks are in. There is still all the way to pick 31 because the Miami Dolphins got their pick taken away. So there's not 32 picks, but 31 picks in the first round. We're only through 5. So definitely they are trickling in. We're almost an hour in, and we only have 5 players announced. They'll probably start to pick it up the further that we go. But the 6th pick of the 2023 NFL draft with the Detroit Lions is about to come in. And, they traded to the Cardinals. So the Arizona Cardinals, who traded the 3rd pick to the Texans, they just got the pick 6 from the Lions. They traded back up. And very interesting by Arizona. They're doing some interesting things. Maybe they knew who they wanted, and they knew that they were going to be able to get the same player at a lower pick. Maybe that's why they decided to make the move that they did. Very interesting there. I'm not 100% sure why they did what they did, but we'll find out. Maybe it will make more sense. But the Detroit Lions, they trade their pick to the Arizona Cardinals. The Lions are not picking at number 6. The Cardinals, who had the 3rd pick, will now have the 6th pick. Who knows what the Cardinals are going to do? Maybe they could draft Will Levis. You never know because of the fact they don't trust Kyler Murray. But if they trust Kyler Murray, then maybe they will draft a receiver or maybe a defensive player. Who knows? But it's going to be interesting. Cardinals received the 2023 6th overall pick, and the Lions received the 2023 12th overall pick and a 2023 2nd-round pick, number 34. Very interesting trade there. Not too significant. But the Arizona Cardinals, they are a team that definitely is toward the bottom of the NFL. Maybe this pick will be able to help them. Jackson says Lions have traded their pick to the Cardinals, aka the retirement home of the NFL. Well, definitely Kyler Murray is not the retirement home, but yes, the Cardinals have gotten a lot of players that were in the, the twilight of their career, looking at J.J. Watt or looking at Carson Palmer and some other players like that. So I agree with you there. Kind of like how the Lakers were the retirement home for a while, but now they do have a younger quarterback. But we're going to really know what the Cardinals' angle is here once they make this pick. The 6th pick is about to come in, and the Cardinals select. Who are they going to select? And Roger Goodell, he says for the Arizona Cardinals with the 6th pick in the draft, Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle out of Ohio State, which probably makes Buckeye Mike very happy there. But I think that that's a good move. That shows you they're going to commit to Kyler Murray and try to protect him. That is a move that shows you that they still believe in Kyler Murray. They're not going with Will Levis. They're keeping Kyler Murray, and they are going with an offensive tackle in Paris Johnson Jr. Very interesting there overall. I think that you could definitely make an argument that that's a good pick if you believe in Kyler Murray. If you don't believe in Kyler Murray, then I definitely could see how you would not think so for sure, that it's not a good pick to get an offensive lineman in Paris Johnson. But still, I think that if you do believe in Kyler Murray, I think it's a good pick. But it's going to be very interesting to see, can he protect him at a high level? Paris Johnson, he did have a lot of success with Ohio State protecting their quarterback with C.J. Stroud. So he could be really good. Jackson, the Ohio State's pretty happy tonight so far. I agree with you. I think that overall, for sure, what they have done, I think it's a good move. Being able to draft an offensive lineman. I think they needed to do that because again, Kyler Murray, he's a small quarterback. He needs protection. Yes, he can scramble around just like Bryce Young can, but you do need protection, especially when you're that small. And I think Paris Johnson Jr. is a good pick. Maybe some people think he could be drafted a bit too high, but sometimes when you are drafting on need, based on what you're doing, when you're basing it off of, hey, we're keeping our quarterback, then that is a different move. Buckeye said, what a move by Zona. I agree. I think that since you're keeping Kyler Murray, obviously it's a good move. But if you don't believe in Kyler Murray, it's a bad move. Then they should have gone with someone else. Clint Moses says Murray should have played baseball. Yeah, I think you could be right, Clint Moses. I mean, it's definitely a game that he would have been able to steal the bases. He definitely was good at throwing the ball like, a baseball player should. So I think he definitely could have played baseball, and he wouldn't have had to worry about getting hit like in the NFL. The NFL, you do make more money, and he's a good football player, but he definitely is going to have to play at a high level if he wants to have a lot of success. But it's very interesting for sure. Definitely to be able to see who the next pick in the draft will be. The Raiders, they have the 7th pick. The Las Vegas Raiders in the draft, who will they pick? They're a team that definitely is not one of the better teams in the NFL right now. They definitely need to draft someone really good. And I think that Jimmy Garoppolo, he could have some success with the Raiders, but they still need a lot more to be able to have success. Maybe they'll draft a defender. Their defense is porous. Their defense gives up way too many points. I think they really struggle on that side of the ball. But it's going to be very interesting for sure. Round 1, pick 7 is the Las Vegas Raiders. Jack says he agrees on Kyler Murray should have played baseball. That's an interesting argument. I mean, it is what it is. He's playing the NFL football. He's definitely going to have to find a way to have success in this league. And, the Cardinals have invested a lot in him, and it looks like they're investing even more in him by getting Paris Johnson Jr., an offensive tackle out of Ohio State. If they did not have faith in Kyler Murray, or they were not putting more of their chips into Kyler Murray, then they would have drafted Will Levis at quarterback. But they are definitely putting their chips into Kyler Murray, drafting an offensive lineman. We'll have to see if it does work out. Puckeye Mike says, Jackson spin the Jimmy the Bears at number 9, please. He's definitely wanting that to happen. It will be interesting to see for sure. But it definitely could happen. But they're showing Mel Kiper's best available. He's still got Jalen Carter, defensive tackle out of Georgia, Will Levis, quarterback of Kentucky, Bijan Robinson, running back of Texas, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback of Oregon, and Peter Skonorowski, offensive tackle from Northwestern. Some really good players still on the board. We have a lot more picks to go. But definitely I could see the Raiders drafting Jalen Carter, defensive tackle. It will be interesting to see what their priorities are. Maybe they take Bijan Robinson. I think that they do have a good running back room with Josh Jacobs, so they don't really need that. So maybe they don't draft a running back, but Bijan Robinson is one of the best players available, and that would be a great running back tandem for the Raiders being able to have two great running backs, kind of like Dallas had with Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard for the past few seasons, even though they did get rid of Ezekiel Elliott. So I think that could be an option. They could take Bijan Robinson, but they could also go with a corner or a defensive tackle. Probably the Raiders do need to go defense. I think they should go with like a Christian Gonzalez at corner or maybe a Jalen Carter defensive lineman from Georgia. That probably would be their best option because their defense is not great. That's why Derek Carr was never able to have success at the Raiders, because their defense was always one of the worst in the NFL. Jackson said if the Bears draft Jackson Smith and Jigma, then they're showing they're committed to going to the playoffs and that they're committed to Justin Fields. I agree with that, but for sure, the Bears are going to have to do more than just getting Jackson Smith and Jigma. They need offensive line. Maybe getting Skonorowski would be big. I know Jackson Smith and Jigma will be a great pick for a receiver to have a good receiver duo with the Bears, but I feel like Chicago really needs to get an offensive lineman. They need to get a player to be able to protect Justin Fields. Their offensive line is not very good. So maybe the Northwestern guy, Peter Skonorowski, but we'll have to see for sure. The pick is in for the Las Vegas Raiders. They will be announcing it really soon. Definitely these picks are coming in very, very slowly, but it's to build that anticipation. You cannot blame them for building that anticipation. You definitely get more intrigue as this time goes on. Buckeye Mike says if Bears go, Jackson and Jim, it gives Fields a weapon and familiarity with Fields. I agree with that. It definitely does. And you've seen a lot of teams do that recently with a lot of these players that they've drafted together. You got like Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and then you got Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne. It's smart. And then you have Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Very smart moves because you have that familiarity. I think it's a great move overall to do that. But unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. But it definitely can work out based on what these teams do decide to do. If they do prioritize that familiarity, or they just want to go with best overall player, or if they just want to go with what they need. Because that's always an interesting thing. Some teams base it off of team need, and some teams base it off of best overall player. So I think that's kind of what the Texans did. They went with the best overall player left with C.J. Stroud, and then they went with team need and Will Anderson. So it's an interesting move. Or you kind of really go vice versa with that. You can say that they needed C.J. Stroud. I don't know. Either way, they need a lot of help for sure. The Texans are one of the worst teams in the NFL. But still, sometimes you just got to figure out what your priorities are, what you need, what you want, and then you got to find a way to draft what you think is best. Unfortunately, these teams would love to have all of these players, but you just can't have them all. That's why you only have some picks, and you got to be smart with how you get your picks, trading up, trading down over the years, to be able to be in the right position to get the players that you want. But still very interesting as we go further along in this first round. The Las Vegas Raiders with the 7th pick in the NFL draft. The pick is in. They will be announcing it very shortly. The Raiders, their fans are very happy for sure. Definitely anticipating this pick, unless there is a trade. We've seen a couple trades already, but I don't think they will trade the pick more than likely, but you never know. The pick is in. I think they are about to do it. And you have Atlanta and Chicago at 8 and 9 unless they trade their picks as well. But still, it's going very slowly but surely, but increasing that anticipation, having all those people out there wait and build that anticipation. I love the anticipation building. You got to do it. You got to make people wait. It makes it a lot of fun for sure. But our last pick was Paris Johnson Jr., offensive lineman out of Ohio State. But who will the Raiders draft at number 7? Roger Goodell. He is on the stage. He's got the card in his hand. And he's about to tell who the Raiders are picking with the 7th pick in the draft. And with the 7th pick in the draft, Tyree Wilson, defensive end out of Texas Tech. That's who is being picked. That's a very interesting pick right there. I think that's not a bad move. I mean, Tyree Wilson is a really good player. He's a defensive end out of Texas Tech. He has a lot of skill. Thought they might go with Jalen Carter out of Georgia, but Jalen Carter, he's fallen. The Ohio State says, what's up, Only Talk Sports? Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. He says, first football stream I've joined of yours. Yeah, it's the first football stream that I've actually done because I didn't do any during football season. I started doing it during basketball, but I really appreciate you for being here. We have the NFL draft. It's going slowly but surely here. But we just saw Tyree Wilson taken 7th overall to the Raiders, defensive end out of Texas Tech. And now Atlanta, they are on the clock. Very interesting there overall. The Ohio State says 2 Ohio State Buckeyes in the top 10 with Stroud to Texas and Paris Johnson Jr. to the Cardinals. And I think both picks are really good. I mean, you look at CJ Stroud is a great player. He definitely could have been drafted by the Panthers, but they chose Bryce Young. They did not take CJ Stroud. And then Paris Johnson Jr. to the Cardinals. They definitely need an offensive lineman because of the fact you look at Kyler Murray. He needs protection for sure. But I really appreciate you for being here, The Ohio State. We got a fun draft on deck. It is just starting. We're only at the 8th pick here. There's still a long way to go. The Ohio State, I kind of feel bad for Stroud going to the Texans. He just doesn't have much at all around him. Could be another Ohio State quarter not doing well in the NFL. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's very unfortunate. I mean, you look at Justin Fields with the Chicago Bears. He just does not have the team around him, and potentially C.J. Stroud will not have the team around him either. It's very unfortunate, but hopefully they do build around him, and he'll be able to have a lot of success. Even if it's not in his rookie year, it'll be maybe a year or two down the line. The Ohio State and Texans have to build well around Stroud 100%. When you're one of the worst teams and you get a quarterback that is your potential franchise quarterback of the future, you got to build around them, because if you do not, then they're going to get hurt. So you definitely have to build around him. You cannot let him get hurt. The Ohio State, I would have rather seen Stroud go to the Panthers or Colts. That's definitely the same sentiment Buckeye Mike had earlier. I agree with you. The Ohio State, he probably would have been better with the Colts, especially the Panthers, but that's unfortunately not what ended up happening. It is crazy for sure. But Tyree Wilson, defensive end, going to the Raiders. And I think it's a good move. They needed a defensive player. The Raiders, their defense was very porous. I think that is a good move. Definitely some other players that they could have drafted. But it's very interesting. They're showing Will Levis, quarterback out of Kentucky. Will he be taken by the Falcons? I don't think so, because I think that they said they are committed to Ridder, but they could take Levis. They could take Levis. And if they do, that shows you that Ridder could potentially not be the starting quarterback this next season or in the future. Jackson, I hope D'Amico can fix the Texans. Not so much for the Texans, but for D'Amico Ryans because of the Bama ties. Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope the Texans can get it turned around. It's unfortunate that they are not very good. I mean, they definitely were solid overall a while back, when they had Deshaun Watson. They had some things going, but then everything happened with that. And then they don't have a quarterback anymore. It's just been very tough for the Texans. They have not been good in a long time. Brock Osweiler didn't work when they had him as well. And, I mean, C.J. Stroud, he's going to have to get a team put around him, or it's just not going to work at all. The Ohio State said, I haven't followed college football players outside of Ohio State much this past season, so I have no idea what to expect this draft overall. Yeah, a lot of people probably don't, but it's just fun as well. I mean, it's very fun to just see who these teams pick and which players get taken, whether they get taken higher or lower. So thanks for being here. I really agree with you for sure. Even if you don't really know overall, sometimes that just makes it just as much fun. Buckeye Mike, he says, I like this move out of Vegas, and are we seeing the negative effect of what Jalen Carter did? I think we were seeing his action in the offseason hurt him. Yeah, that's a good point. Did not bring that up, but you could have a point there potentially. I mean, sometimes when stuff happens off the field, it could definitely, have some teams be a little weary to pick you. The Ohio State, I'm very eager to see my Bengals take at 28. A lot of people are saying running back Jahmyr Gibbs at Bama could be a savvy still pick with the Bengals if he is there at 28. Yeah, that's an interesting pick right there, because running backs are not being taken high anymore. I think because they don't have the longevity of these other players at these other positions. I think running backs, they, age out quicker because they get hit so much. That's probably why they're not taken as high anymore. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs could fall that far for sure. Bijan Robinson more likely will be the first running back taken, but still, running backs are not taken as high as they used to. It just does not happen on a regularity. I think it's probably a smart move, because you just don't want to get a guy that probably won't even be on your team past 29, 30 years old. Look at Ezekiel Elliott. Jackson Johnson said, although right now the Titans are up for a disaster year in 2023. Yeah, I would say Tennessee, they messed up trading A.J. Brown. It's like they don't really want to win, I guess. I don't really know. You cannot trade your best receiver away to the Eagles, and then, you're just left being mediocre. It's unfortunate, because Ryan Tannehill is not the greatest quarterback of all time. He's solid. I like Ryan Tannehill, but he's not in the upper echelon of the NFL. And then you get rid of A.J. Brown, your best receiver. It's not smart. If you want to win, getting rid of A.J. Brown is not smart. The Ohio State says Joe Mixon has to take the pay cut the Bengals are offering him, or Bengals are going to cut him and move on from him. I think that's a good point. Joe Mixon, that situation is really bad with the Bengals, so they definitely would need a running back if they don't, keep him on the team. Jackson says, I'm thinking it's Bijan. They could. Buckeye said, where do we think Bijan Robinson out of Texas gets picked up? Probably mid-first round. I would think probably around pick 15. I wouldn't see him falling as far, as Jahmyr Gibbs, because Bijan Robinson has so much talent. But like the Ohio State, I completely agree. I would love the Bengals to take Bijan Robinson, but no way Bijan's still available at 28. There's no way. If he's still available at 28, then running backs are definitely getting picked later. I mean, that is 100%. Because Bijan Robinson is a fantastic talent. He is a fantastic talent. Jeff says to Jackson, it's sad because Derrick Henry is a beast. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, he's going to be on a team that's just going to keep losing because they're not trading to win. Again, Ryan Tannehill is solid, like Ryan Tannehill, but he's just not an upper echelon quarterback in the NFL. They don't have a lot of weapons on the outside with receivers. Their defense is not bad. It's not a bad defense, but they just don't have enough. And they're not doing anything required and necessary to be able to get better. So it's just not looking that good for the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis. It could be interesting if they do, because then that shows they're not dedicated to Desmond Ridder. It'll be very interesting. Jackson said, Jeff's so true, but I'm thinking Derrick Henry gets traded elsewhere. I don't want it to happen. It needs to happen for Henry's sake. Probably, especially if the Titans are committed to not winning, then they will. If they have any hope of wanting to win, you got to keep Henry. But if they are not dedicated to winning, then they definitely will trade Derrick Henry, and the Titans will be bad for a long time in the foreseeable future. But they're about to announce the 8th pick in the draft, the Atlanta Hawks. Who are they going to take? Will they take a quarterback? Will they take a defensive player? I think they could go Will Levis. They could. You never know. If Will Levis is taken, then he's going to be the last quarterback taken for a while. Probably the last quarterback taken in the first round. I don't really see any other quarterback getting taken in this first round. But the Falcons pick is in. They are about to announce the pick, the 8th pick in the NFL draft. Who are they taking? At number 8 for the Atlanta Falcons. Will they take a quarterback, a defensive player, maybe a running back? Who knows? And they do take Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson went higher than I thought. I guess maybe they're committed to Ridder and they want a running back. Who knows what the Atlanta Falcons are trying to do. But Bijan Robinson is a very talented player out of Texas. Running back out of Texas. First running back taken in this draft. Do not blame the Falcons for taking Bijan Robinson. He is a very talented player. Jeff says, we'd love for him to come to the Panthers. That would be fantastic, but they do have Sanders out of the Eagles, so they probably don't need a running back right now, but that would be awesome. Clint Moses says Bijan. Can't believe it. They took Bijan Robinson. He's a great player. That will definitely help out their offense, but they're going to have to do more for sure if they want to be a good team in the future, because they don't have enough. Their defense isn't good enough. Their offense definitely does struggle at times, but I do think Bijan Robinson will definitely give a jolt to the Falcons offense. They're showing his highlights out of Texas, and when he was playing well, he had some great plays with the Texas Longhorns. Sometimes he had some games where he was not effective, but he had some really good games as well. And the Bears, they trade their pick to the Eagles, and that's probably going to make Buckeye Mike very upset. The Bears trade the pick to the Eagles, so the Jackson Smith and Jigma at number 9 is not happening. Jackson, after that disappointing end of last season, I don't see the Titans winning. I agree. Jackson says, Jeff, I'm thinking it's more like the Eagles or somebody else in the NFC. Yeah, I would agree with that. The Eagles are looking really good for the future. Jackson, the Falcons are pretty happy tonight. Jackson, Atlanta still believes in Desmond the Riddler Ridder. I agree with you. I mean, it shows you, since they didn't take Will Levis, which they could have. They could have taken Will Levis, but they did not. So they're going with Desmond Ridder and going with Bijan Robinson, the running back. I don't know if Desmond Ridder is going to be the quarterback that's going to be able to stay with Atlanta in the future. I don't know if he's going to have a lot of success or not, but definitely that it seems who they are committed to as of this time. But I think that Bijan Robinson is a fantastic player and definitely will have a lot of success with Atlanta right out of the gate. But the next pick, the Philadelphia Eagles are now at number 9. Really shocking that the Chicago Bears traded the pick. You never know when these trades are going to happen. It's insane. Jeff says you're probably right. I was just dreaming, laughing aloud. For sure. It's good to dream. It's good to dream. But a lot of times dreams do not happen, especially when they are very far-fetched. But you never know. It's never impossible. But they're talking about that trade. The Eagles trading up to number 9. Jackson says nothing wrong with dreaming, good buddy. Nothing wrong at all. 100%. Completely agree. But really appreciate all you guys for being here. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. But I really appreciate you guys for being here. The draft has been a lot of fun as anticipated. You just cannot beat the 2023 NFL draft or any draft in the NFL in any year for that matter. You just cannot beat it. So much fun every single year coming back to the NFL draft. New players from the same schools, the big names, but it's a lot of fun for sure. Jeff says, thanks, man, for sure. But the Eagles, they're about to announce their pick really soon. Who will the Eagles pick? I mean, they're a team that definitely is a great football team right now. They just went, to the Super Bowl and lost. So they are not a bad team at all. Will they go with defense? Their defense was really good. Or will they go with a running back because of the fact they just, traded Sanders over to the Panthers? But they probably aren't going to take a running back because of the fact I don't think you take Jahmyr Gibbs that high, and they aren't going to be able to get Bijan. But still interesting. Clint Moses says running back pick top 10, bit risky. Guess he's worth it. Yeah, Bijan Robinson's really good, but I would agree with you. It's tough to pick a running back because of the amount of times they can get hurt. So I agree with you. I mean, it's definitely risky, but he is very talented. But if Atlanta was going to take anyone else, they probably should have taken Will Levis, even though I still don't know if Will Levis is definitely a top 10 caliber player. But if you needed a quarterback, you could have went with him. They're deciding to go with that running back. So of all the running backs, I think Bijan was the best one. So I don't, I'm not, disagreeing that he should have been taken first, but I do agree with you that even though he should have been the first running back taken, he probably should not be in the top 10 because it is tough to take running backs. Jack says, anytime, man, anytime. For sure. Really appreciate all you guys for being here. But there's talking to Bijan Robinson right now, the Falcons. He is probably very happy for sure he got taken as high as he did, because the higher you're taken, I mean, it's very important to be taken really high. You can be taken lower, and if you have a lot of success, it's still awesome. But when you get taken really high and you have a lot of success, that really bodes well for the future in your career. But Bijan Robinson, the running back out of the Texas Longhorns, taken number 8 overall to the Atlanta Falcons. I think that is a good pick for them. But the Philadelphia Eagles, they are up next. Their pick is in, and they will be announcing very soon who their pick is. I don't even know where the Eagles are going to go here. Like I said, I can see defense. I can see some offense. Very interesting. It's a lot easier to project who these teams are going to take when 2023 9th overall pick and the Bears receive the 2023 10th overall pick and the 2024 4th round pick. So an interesting trade. So the Bears get the next pick. So that's really interesting. I mean, they went from 9th to 10th. Sometimes when those trades happen, it's because you want another trade, another pick. Like they got that 4th pick in the 2024 draft now. And whoever they want, they know the Eagles aren't going to take. That's more than likely the case here. That's probably what the Bears decide. They know that the Eagles aren't going to take the player that they are going to take anyway. So trade down one spot. Not a bad move. I don't think it's a bad move by Chicago, as long as they know what they're doing and as long as the Eagles do not take the player that they want. But the pick is about to come in. Man, these picks, the anticipation is so long. They take a long time to announce these players. Roger Goodell, he's coming back on out to announce who the 9th pick in the draft will be to the Philadelphia Eagles. And they get Jalen Carter, defensive tackle. So he's finally taken off the board. Very interesting there. He definitely is a guy that a lot of people have question marks based on what happened off the field. But they take him. Interesting. Jackson says big trade just happened. Eagles get the 9th pick and the Bears, they get the 10th pick plus a 4th round pick. But Jalen Carter, defensive tackle out of Georgia, is taken to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a really good player. Maybe some of the stuff that happened off the field is what knocked him lower. You can definitely tell he is in tears, very happy to finally be picked. But hey, the 9th pick is not bad. It's not like he dropped that far. Still the 9th pick in the NFL draft. Very huge overall. All of these dreams are coming true for these players. Angelo says, wow, good move. I mean, I agree. I think that is a good move. I mean, taking a guy that should have been taken higher, but something happened, you take him lower, is a risk because you don't know what's going to happen beyond that. But still, it is definitely a good move. You want to take the best available player? I think he definitely was the best available player. But now Chicago, they're one pick lower now. They knew probably that the Eagles weren't going to take the player that they want, and now their pick is in at number 10. The Ohio State says, you think the Bears will take Smith and Jim in a matchup with Fields and Smith and Jim went to Ohio State? Also, that's what a lot of people are saying. It could happen. It definitely could happen. I mean, I know a lot of people are not projecting Jackson Smith-Njigba to be taken, so high in this draft because he's a guy that probably, since he was hurt and did not play in the CFP, he should be taken a little bit lower. But still, he is a very talented player. So I think that he definitely is a guy that I could definitely see, potentially getting drafted this high. He's a really good player, but I could also see him getting drafted lower as well. Clint Mose says the Bears, the Ohio State, said that would be nice to see 3 Ohio State players go in the top 10. For sure, and they'd be the only school to have that happen this year. Even Alabama only had 2 with Will Anderson and Bryce Young, but still going to be very interesting for sure who the Chicago Bears take. And a lot of people are guessing that it could be Jackson Smith-Njigba. Probably would be a good move right there, but I still think that the Bears need offensive linemen. So maybe Peter Skonorowski out of Northwestern might be a good pick. But we'll have to see for sure. These teams are going to pick who they think is best. Angelo says picking teammates has become a trend. I agree with you. It's become a big trend. More and more teams are doing it. I think it's smart because you have that chemistry. You have that chemistry, especially with a quarterback and a receiver. It definitely helps for sure to have that connection, be able to throw to a guy that you've been throwing to for years. I think it's really smart overall. And it definitely should have been something that more teams did back in the past as well, but they probably just did not think about it. Or they were really just going for best player overall instead of going, for not players from the same team. They were going for higher guys that they thought were going to end up being better players. The Ohio State, the Bengals did with Burrow and Chase. Burrow wanted Chase because they were college teams, and look how well that has turned out. And yeah, they actually threw each other in high school as well. So it went way further back than that. And they definitely have had a lot of success for sure together. And they have kept it going in the NFL. And a big reason why the Bengals have been as good as they are. So it's crazy. I completely agree with you. I think that the teammates becoming a trend for sure. I think it's a good move to be able to draft teammates because they have that chemistry. I think it's definitely something that teams should do, and more teams should do it in the future. But the 10th pick in the draft from the Chicago Bears, the pick is in. They'll be announcing it really soon. Now they're interviewing Jalen Carter. He is still in tears. I mean, I definitely understand why he's in tears because he got drafted lower than he probably originally would have, and he's just happy to finally be off the board. His dream has come true of being in the NFL. But definitely, you got to keep stuff off the field, off the court, whatever sport you play, going well, because if you don't, sometimes it really does hurt your draft stock. But he is a really talented player. Glad for Jalen Carter that he got drafted number 9 to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a really good player. I think will definitely benefit the Eagles. The Eagles are a team that is a really solid team, and Jalen Carter will be able to go to a team that is going to be a fantastic team again next year. I think sometimes it's really good to get drafted to a team that's already good. Because if you don't get drafted to a team that's already good, the expectations are on you already to be really good out of the gate. And sometimes, you want to be on a team that you can play immediately and not be a backup. But sometimes it's good to be behind guys that can help you grow and you can really learn from them. So it's a really interesting argument either way. I definitely could see the argument for being on a bad team that you get to play versus a good team that you get to learn behind better players. Very interesting debate there. Buckeye Mike said, I guess Jalen's issue didn't hurt him too bad. Not really. Falling to number 9 wasn't too bad. The Ohio State, I'm worried about how much better the Ravens have got. Ravens signing Lamar to that big deal. Now have OBJ, and there are rumors that Ravens can maybe trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Well, they're definitely trying to win, but the biggest key for them is that Lamar Jackson has to stay healthy. If Lamar Jackson gets hurt again before the playoffs, how are they going to have success? He's been hurt before the playoffs almost every single time they've made it. He's played in a couple playoff games, but he's missed more playoff games than he's played in them. So I think that if he stays healthy, then definitely the Ravens are going to be a great team. That, if you're a rival of them, it could be a problem. But if he does not stay healthy, then the Ravens are just going to continue to struggle. And they paid him a lot of money. That is a lot of money that they had to pay to keep Lamar Jackson. He wanted a lot of money. He got it. Buckeye Mike says Jackson Smith and the Bears will happen. It could. We're going to find out really soon. There are definitely players that the best available have higher than Jackson Smith-Njigba, but maybe they could go with the teammate trend. It could be interesting for sure. I mean, you look at Jackson Smith-Njigba, he is the 8th best player available according to ESPN. So he is not the highest rated player available. You have these other guys that definitely could help. And I still think they need an offensive tackle. I really do. I think they could go with Peter Skonorowski out of Northwestern. but we'll have to see. Justin Fields needs a lot of protection. The Chicago Bears, their pick is in, and it's offensive tackle out of Tennessee, Darnell Wright. They did not go with Peter Skoronski, the highest offensive tackle available. They went with Darnell Wright, who was the 9th best player available. I mean, at the end of the day, there's not much difference between these guys. I don't think there's that much difference. I think all these guys are really good. Darnell Wright, Peter Skoronski are all really solid players. But they took Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee. I think that's a good move to be able to protect Justin Fields. He needs protection, and Darnell Wright is a really good offensive tackle. The Ohio State says, I wonder if Lamar Jackson will turn to the next Kawhi Leonard, constantly getting hurt. Interesting statement there. I mean, like you said, Kawhi Leonard, he has been hurt a lot. And Lamar Jackson, unfortunately, has been hurt a lot. I mean, when you run the football and you're not the biggest quarterback in the world, it definitely increases your chances of getting hurt. Lamar Jackson is just not a big quarterback, and he runs a lot, and that definitely makes it where he can get hurt, very often. It's really unfortunate, but you just cannot have, injuries overall. It is what it is. But I think that looking at Kawhi Leonard, I mean, playing basketball, I mean, he definitely sometimes just has bad luck like a lot of basketball players do. They get hurt a lot. But Lamar Jackson, he gets hurt because he runs. And unfortunately, when you run and you get hit, it happens. But you could be right. The Ohio State went with the SEC over the Big Ten. The Bears did. Hey, that could be an argument there. A lot of people have said that the SEC is better than the Big Ten every way in football. I don't know if that's completely true, but the SEC definitely has a big argument for sure and having a lot of success. And they went with an offensive tackle in Darnell Wright out of the Tennessee Volunteers. So he's the first player taken from the Volunteer, not Hendon Hooker, but it was Darnell Wright. Should definitely help out Justin Fields. Be able to protect him at a higher level. He should be a guy that definitely plays in year one. But now you've got the Tennessee Titans, a team we have no idea what they're going to do because of the fact that they're a team that traded A.J. Brown. They don't look like a team that's wanting to build to win. Who knows what they're going to do? Will they trade their pick or will they keep it and get a player? Their pick is in, but you never know. They could trade their pick. We don't know what the Titans are going to do. Will they take a quarterback? I know they still got Ryan Tannehill, but will they take Will Levis? I know they have Malik Willis as well, but it's going to be very interesting for sure. I think also you look at the Tennessee Titans, they could be a team that goes defense. I think their defense is solid, but I probably think that they could go a receiver. Maybe they take Jackson Smith and Jimmy. They need a receiver. Buckeye Mike said, I still like this move by Chicago. Yeah, it's not Jackson Smith and Jigba, but I still think it's a good move for sure. Buckeye Mike also showing faith in Justin Fields by getting him protection. Jackson's Titans got the big O lineman from Northwestern. Maybe you're a little bit ahead of us. I'm not 100% sure. I have not seen that yet, but that could be the case. Very interesting for sure. But if they do take Peter Skoronski, if that is who the Tennessee Titans take, that probably would help. Their chance of being able to protect Tannehill and be able to get more blocking lanes for Derrick Henry, but they need receivers. The Tennessee Titans receiving core is very weak. They have a few good ones, but they just do not have the greatest receiving core. It's probably one of the weaker ones in the NFL, and it's very tough to win at a high level when you don't have a lot of great receivers to throw the ball to. I mean, it's not like you can't have success, but still. Clint Moses, Fields doesn't like playing in bad weather. They'll trade him soon. That's interesting. I mean, I don't really think anybody likes playing in bad weather. I mean, snow's awesome, but it's not fun to play in snow and rain and all that. It's a lot better to play in the South or somewhere where it doesn't snow and rain that much. But still, he's with the Bears. You definitely, if you're going to keep him, you invest in him, you have to get a lot of production out of him. The Ohio State's Titans didn't officially make the pick on TV yet, but most people know picks a little ahead of time through all that sort of leaks from experts. Okay, well, I'm definitely not looking at that. I've never actually done it, so I have no idea who the pick is until it's announced. I prefer that. I prefer that over leaks and sources. So I definitely will want to wait and see who the pick is for sure. But thanks for letting me know that via Ohio State. Mike said he played Ohio State bad weather for 2 seasons. That's a bad take. Sorry, bro. I mean, hey, again, he played Ohio State some bad weather. I mean, Justin Fields, the weather's not a problem for Fields, overall. If that is a minor issue, it could be. But the main problem for Fields is the fact that he has a bad offensive line. They just drafted an offensive lineman. That is a good move by the Bears. They need to protect Justin Fields if they want him to be a guy that's going to be able to last. If he doesn't last, then it will be a problem. The Ohio State's the most drafts I've watched picks for spoiled a few minutes before I picked them on live TV. Definitely for sure. Buckeye Mike's Will Levis to Tennessee Titans. That could be true. That could be true. Clint Moses, Justinville said that himself. It's his quote. I mean, hey, it probably is. I mean, I don't think it's very smart to say things like that out loud because of that when you do, it does frustrate a lot of people. But hey, if the Bears were not happy with him, they would have already gotten rid of him. They've kept him for now. They could have drafted one of these quarterbacks. They had the first pick. They could have shipped Fields out, and they could have gotten Stroud or Young. But they didn't. They chose to keep Fields. So even if Fields don't like bad weather, you're absolutely right, Clint Moses, if he did say that, which I'm sure he did. But still, they're keeping him. So he's going to have to play at a higher level if he has better talent and offensive line around him, or it's going to be no more excuses to play bad or not, no excuses to not play well. He's going to have to play well, or if not, like you said, they will trade him. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely a lot of smoke and mirrors in the NFL for sure. Behind the scenes, you look at Kyler Murray. People are talking about what's going on out there with Arizona. Does he play at a high level? Some people have talked about his off-the-field stuff as well as he focused. A lot of quarterbacks and teams have a lot of question marks. That's just the name of the game. It's the speculation makes it very fun for fans. That's why we're all here having a lot of fun. Really appreciate you guys for being here, but that's what makes it very interesting. But Tennessee, they still have the 11th pick in the draft. Right here, the pick is in. We are still awaiting who it will be. But overall, you do have Jackson thinking it's going to be Peter Skonorowski. Buckeye Mike thinks it's going to be Will Levis. So we'll have to see for sure if either are correct. The Ohio State's Titans finished the season on a 7-game losing streak. Started 7-3, finished 7-10. And yeah, that was awful. I mean, you can't do that. And then, I mean, again, if they had A.G. Brown, they would have been better in the receiving corps, but they traded him away. And they just don't have a team that's capable of being able to have a lot of success for sure. I think it's going to be very interesting. Buckeye Mike says, which version are you watching? I'm assuming you're watching ABC. I got it on ESPN, but I don't really think it matters too much. But definitely very interesting there. You got it on both TV stations. But the pick is in. We are about to announce who the Tennessee Titans have. Finally, another pick. It's been a while between the 10th and 11th pick. Hopefully they start to pick up a little bit. The 11th pick in the draft is about to come in. Roger Goodell keeping us with a lot of suspense, and it is Peter Skonorowski. So I guess Jackson was right. He found out who it was going to be. Peter Skonorowski, offensive tackle out of Northwestern. 6'4", 313 pounds. He's a big offensive lineman out of Northwestern, and he could be a guy that can protect overall Ryan Tannehill if that's who they are going to continue to go with at quarterback. Very interesting stuff there. The Ohio State says Jackson was correct with the pick speculation about 5 minutes ago. I wonder if all of those are correct, like the leaks and sources that he's got right now. I wonder if they'll all are correct. If they are, then, I mean, hey, you can say it spoils the picks, but it also gives you kind of that insider information for everybody else. Who knows? Either way you look at it, it's very interesting. But Tennessee taking Peter Skonorowski. Good pick. I mean, I think that if you feel like Ryan Tannehill is a guy that can have success, overall still with Tennessee, and you feel like he wasn't being protected enough and it'll help Derrick Henry as well, I think it's a good pick. But I still think that Tennessee just needs a lot more around Derrick Henry and Tannehill, especially in the receiving corps. I don't think their defense is bad, but their defense does struggle at times. The Ohio State says you should hold off on posting on here, Jackson, if you have the inside scoop or leak. So it probably would help. You definitely don't want to get me or anybody else in trouble. I mean, I have no idea who the picks is. I'm not looking at no inside sources, but probably a good move, the Ohio State. Jackson, really appreciate you for being here, but probably would be best not to post inside leaks or sources for sure. I had no idea it was going to be Peter Skonorowski. Thought it could be Will Levis, could have been anybody else, but it ended up being Peter Skonorowski at the end of the day. He's a really good offensive tackle. Definitely was a great offensive lineman for Northwestern, even though Northwestern was a bad football team this past season. They were not very good, but still, he was a guy that overall looking at, his play, he was fantastic, but he just didn't really have anything to protect. They didn't have any run game. The quarterbacks for Northwestern weren't that great, unfortunately. So Northwestern had a bad season, but he was a great offensive lineman nonetheless. Jacksonville, I say, I don't have inside scoop or leaks or no worries. Well, so Jackson just guessed it right. Interesting. Well, it's because you said Titans got the big O lineman from Northwestern, so it's like you already knew. So I don't have. So I mean, if you're either ahead of us, I'm not sure. But when you said that they already got him and no one else knew yet. That made it seem for Ohio State that he had inside league sources or whatever. So it's very interesting. I mean, if you already just had that inside hunch that they were, then that was a good guess, man. If Ohio State says sounds good, Jack, you just have a really good amount of knowledge of the players then. Who knows? I have no idea. Jackson, sometimes he amazes me. He does a good job with that. Who knows? But for sure, I mean, I thought that they could go with an offensive lineman, but you just sometimes don't know what teams are going to do. And the Detroit Lions take Jahmyr Gibbs. Wow. Jahmyr Gibbs got drafted a lot higher than I thought. That is very interesting. I thought he would fall a lot further. Wow, he's taken 12th overall to the Detroit Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama. That's crazy. Jahmyr Gibbs going to have to go farther north. He's going to have to go from Alabama all the way up to Detroit. But, hey, he's getting drafted number 12. I'm sure he is very happy. Mike says, I was joking. Great pick. I like this pick. Helps build the O-line. He's big and get leverage and is a force on the line. 100%. I think that he's a good pick for sure. The Ohio State says no Lions took Gibbs. I want him to fall to Cincy. I didn't know if he would fall all the way to Cincy, but I agree with you. I thought he would fall further. Jack says, I just wonder who will be the one that selects Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is a great receiver. He's undersized, but out of Boston College, he is a great receiver for sure. And I think he's a guy that a lot of people thought would go to another program. When he was at Boston College, he said there was a lot of programs that wanted him. Definitely a lot of NIL involved. But he did decide to stay at Boston College. I thought that was really wild of Zay Flowers to stay at Boston College, but I think they did give him a lot of good NIL opportunities there as well because he was a great player. But he decided to stick it out at Boston College and not go to another program. But he is a good player. He is a very, very good player. Very small, very short, but he is quick, and he could be taken soon. You definitely are a little weary when you're taking a really short guy like that, though, because of the fact you don't want them to get hurt on like the first tackle or two. You want them to be able to take a lot of hits. Jeff says, great player. I agree. Jahmyr Gibbs is solid. I mean, he is very good. But he was at Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech lost a good one when he transferred to Alabama. Unfortunately, that is the nature of the transfer portal. Players want to go to bigger programs, maybe better NIL opportunities, maybe a better chance to win. I think that was all an influence for Jahmyr Gibbs, but he was great at Georgia Tech. He was the best player that they had on their football team. And then he was going over to Alabama and gave them a lot of success this past season. But he's a great running back and definitely was good at Georgia Tech and Alabama. Jack says, I think the Steelers will draft Flowers, but I could be wrong. I could be true. Like I said, I think Flowers is a really good wide receiver. Definitely undersized, but he's a good receiver. But Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama by way of Georgia Tech, he's going to the Detroit Lions. I think that is a good pick. Maybe a little high because it's always tough to draft running backs. You don't want them to get hurt. But I think that definitely is a good pick for sure because the Lions, their running game wasn't the best. They have some good players on the outside in the receiving core and the Titans, but I do think that overall, you could argue that they need a little bit more with their run game, and that is why they decided to draft Jahmyr Gibbs. But we still got a little over halfway to go in this first round of the NFL draft. It's been a lot of fun so far. We're at pick number 13 with the Green Bay Packers, and we have some more picks to go. Maybe we'll start to pick up. It has been very slow, but the anticipation has been wild. Really appreciate all you guys for being here. It has been a lot of fun so far. Jeff says Detroit has improved. I agree. Dan Campbell's done a good job, and that organization seems to be finally starting to commit to winning, which is what you have to do. You just can't continue to be mediocre. You can't continue to lose. You got to build around your quarterback. You got to build around the players that you have through the draft, through trades. Any team can win. The NFL is not like Major League Baseball where, you have like the bigger teams like the Dodgers and Yankees get most of the players. And unfortunately, the smaller teams, they just cannot have as much of a salary cap. Looking at the NFL, it's very even Steven. Every team has the same chance to win. And if you're not winning, it's because you're doing something wrong. Jackson says, Jeff, yes, they have a spec. They are not only the NFC North winner, but they win a playoff game or two in the 2023 season. Could be true. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs could be a great addition to their team. He's definitely a really solid player. I think he could be a guy that definitely helps out in the backfield. He could be a guy that definitely can play as a rookie and give them a lot of yards on the ground. Some really good moves being made by these NFL teams. I have not really seen a team that's made a bad pick yet. It seems like these teams are getting a little bit better at making picks. I've seen some bad picks in the past, but I feel like these teams are making really good picks. And you got to be smart. You got to do a good job. When you have these high picks, they are very precious. The Ohio State, the Lions can break that playoff winless drought. Lions haven't won a playoff game since '93. That is a long time. That's 30 years ago. Since 1993 not winning a playoff game, they need to win a playoff game soon. They could. They are a improving football team. Hopefully they can do that. It'd be really awesome to see the Lions finally win a playoff game. The Ohio State, the Bengals used to have the Lions playoff drought until the 2021 season, breaking their playoff winless drought since 1990. And you think about the Cincinnati Bengals. All that time they had Andy Dalton, and they kept making the playoffs year after year, and they would always lose in the first round of the playoff. It was always crazy to me. They would make the playoffs, but they would lose. They would always go around like 10-6. Or 11-5 or 9-7 with Andy Dalton. But the Bengals never were able to win a game. It's crazy, but they got that streak broken with Joe Burrow. Buckeye Mike's, I like this move out of Detroit. Great pick, elusive player, great lateral movement, slick player with great clean cuts. I agree. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is a really good running back. Like I said, he was a very good player at Georgia Tech, and then when he went over to Alabama, had a lot of success as well. I think it is a good pick that definitely helps out their backfield. Jackson says via Ohio State, they will end that drought. I agree. I think they will, and it could be as soon as this year. Via Ohio State says Bengals lost in the wild card round 5 straight years in a row from 2011 to 2015. That's right. That for sure. When I was younger, I definitely just kept seeing the Bengals lose. They would go all the way, get to the playoffs, and they lose. They win around 9 or 10 games, and they would lose. It's insane in the wild card. But finally, the Bengals have broken that streak, so it's awesome for your team. I really like what Joe Burrow's doing up there, and they've got some good players, and they're starting to build around them. They got a good offensive lineman in the trades this offseason, so maybe that will definitely help. And now they're saying the Packers and Jets trade right there that they're showing between the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, going to the Jets, and they get the 15th pick and the 2023 fifth-round pick, but the Packers get the 13th overall pick here. That's why Green Bay has this pick, because of the fact that you do have the trade with Aaron Rodgers that just happened a few days ago. Still insane to see Aaron Rodgers no longer with the Green Bay Packers. It feels like he's been there forever, because he basically was since like the 2000s. It's insane. And the Green Bay Packers take defensive end Lucas Van Ness, a 6'5", 272-pound defensive end out of Iowa. That's a good pick. That's a really good pick. I think that he's a great player out of Iowa. He definitely has a lot of talent for sure. He is a fantastic player. Iowa had a great defense. Whenever you're drafting a player out of Iowa, that is always a good thing for sure, because Iowa has so much talent. I mean, they are, on the defensive side of the ball, one of the best in college football. Their offensive side of the ball at the Iowa Hawkeyes, not that great. Definitely well documented for sure. Anybody that really watches college football, which I'm sure all you guys here do for sure. Iowa, not a good team on the offensive end, but on defense, they are great. Lucas Van Ness, a really good pick for Green Bay. Definitely will help out their defense. Buckeye Mike says Dalton Kincaid to the Bengals is looking more and more likely. Could be true. I think that they do need a tight end. The Ohio State's Marlon Lewis is the worst playoff record of all time at 0-7. That is not good. You never want to have the worst record ever. The Ohio State's Buckeye Mike. We need more tight end depth. I'm not sure Kincaid will be available at 28. Yeah, probably not. That is a good point. I think Dalton Kincaid probably will be taken like in the next 5 to 7 picks, probably in the teens still. We're still only at pick number 14. We got to go all the way to 31 picks. The Patriots are next on the clock. Jackson said, I don't know why, but I'm honestly thinking the Bucs or the Vikings get Will Levis. Could be true. I mean, the Bucs need a quarterback, and if they think Will Levis is good enough to be on the team, I think that they could get him. The Vikings, I mean, you do have Kirk Cousins still, but, I mean, who knows? Maybe they could be drafting him to be behind him. The Ohio State says Rodgers just like Brett Favre from the Packers to the Jets. Now, that right there is true. I'm still laughing at that. They showed that both Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre went from the Packers to the Jets. That both happened. History sometimes does repeat itself. Jackson says the Patriots are probably getting Flowers or Smith and Jigba. For sure. Definitely good. But no, the Patriots are not, because they're trading the pick to the Steelers. The Steelers now have the pick, and now they're on the clock. So what are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to do? The Patriots give away their pick. Insane. The Ohio State says Pats could get Smith and Jigba since Jacoby Myers is on the Raiders now. Yeah, I think that the Patriots need a receiver, but they're not going to get one right now because they just traded their pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will Pittsburgh take a receiver? I think Pittsburgh could use an offensive lineman as well, but still, who knows what they're going to decide. I think that they do need an offensive lineman, though, because Kenny Pickett, he was under a lot of pressure last season. Maybe they take Broderick Jones out of Georgia at offensive tackle. Maybe that would be a big addition for them, because he's like the last offensive tackle high. They could take him. I think that would work wonders for Kenny Pickett. I don't know if he's going to be a fantastic, player overall at offensive tackle in the future, because sometimes these first round draft picks don't always work out at offensive tackle. They have that rust period where they don't do a great job in the NFL. But I do think Broderick Jones is a really talented offensive lineman. He's out of Georgia, and Georgia does have a pretty decent pedigree with players. Sometimes they don't always perform well, but he is a good player. He's 6'5", 311. I think he could have a lot of success. But if not, maybe they will draft a receiver. Who knows? Jackson says, plus I think the Vikings are getting rid of Cousins after 2023. It's interesting. I agree with you, Chad. They could. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins is a solid quarterback, but is he a guy that's going to be able to win you a Super Bowl? I'm not sure. I don't know if he has enough around him, but still, he definitely is a guy that is struggling to be able to go all the way and get the Vikings where they want to be and the Super Bowl, or even to the NFC Championship game. It's been really tough for him. He has not been able to do that. But they're showing the Pittsburgh Steelers the pick is in. I think they could go Broderick Jones. Probably would be a good pick. Even if he does struggle as a rookie, still it would potentially help Kenny Pickett have protection back there. You want to be able to protect your quarterback. I know Kenny Pickett wasn't like the first pick in the draft, but he was still taken in the first round last year. The Steelers are presumably having him as the quarterback of their future. You want to be able to protect him and not have him get banged up and hurt too much before he's in the league for a while. Jack says, oh, internet going burr again. I did not know that. I thought my internet was doing okay. Maybe it went bad for brief, but hopefully my internet is fine. I definitely don't want it going out again. But thank you for being here. The Steelers received the 2023 14 overall pick, and the Patriots got the 17th pick and another pick as well. So it's a lot of trades happening. You love to see these trades that a team moves from one spot to like 2 or 3 spots lower. A lot of times they do that because they want that extra pick, and they also want to have that pick a little bit lower where they think they can get the same guy that they were already looking at. That's usually what ends up happening. I don't think it's a bad move either, because of the fact all you got to do is draft the same player you're going to take 3 or 4 spots lower. It's not a problem at all. Jackson looks like Pitt will get a receiver. Who knows whether they're going to get a receiver or an offensive tackle. I would either go Broderick Jones or probably Zay Flowers or Jack Smith-Njigba. Those are the 2 best options for the Steelers if they're going to go receiver or offensive tackle. But we will see for sure who they pick. The pick is in, and they are about to announce who the pick is. And the 15th pick will be the Jets, and the 16th pick will be Washington. So it's going to be very interesting for sure. And they do take offensive tackle Broderick Jones. So Jackson, unfortunately, did not get this one right. He went with receiver. You've been doing great on your picks, man. But finally, the Steelers, they do take the last top offensive tackle available in Broderick Jones. There is a drop-off after him in offensive tackles. But I do think that Broderick Jones is a really good player that could definitely help protect Kenny Pickett. I think that is a good move there. Offensive tackle out of the Georgia Bulldog. He is a big guy. He definitely can protect. 6'5", 311 pounds. Broderick Jones could definitely be a good pickup for the Pittsburgh Steelers to protect their quarterback. Jack said, well, win some, you lose some. You're good, man. You've done a great job picking these players for sure. But it's going to be very interesting as we move on. We're about halfway through the first round of the NFL draft. It's been a lot of fun, but thanks everyone for being here. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. But more importantly, I appreciate all you guys for being here tonight. It's been a lot of fun so far, and we are only at pick 15. The New York Jets, what are they going to do with their pick here to be able to help out Aaron Rodgers? It's going to be very interesting to see what the Jets decide to do. Jackson says, on the bright side, the Steelers need all the protection they can get. Yes, again, 100%. Their offensive line is not very good. That's why I think it is a good move to get Broderick Jones. And I mean, looking after Broderick Jones, and you can never project how good players actually are based on where, these best availables have these players, but there is not an offensive lineman, on the best available for like 20 more picks. So that definitely goes to show you that Broderick Jones was the last big one available, perceived anyway by these draft experts. So I think that is a good pick. Jackson, Jets will definitely get Smith-Njigba or Flowers. I think they need a receiver or an offensive lineman as well. You look at offensive linemen, it's been a struggle bus for them. They need better offensive linemen at the Jets. but a receiver could help as well. The Ohio State says on the NBA side, Hawks are up 1 on Celtics mid-third quarter. I'm still amazed Hawks won Game 5 of that series. Will be incredible if Hawks win Game 6 tonight also. Yeah, if the Hawks somehow beat the Celtics in that series, that would be insane. The Celtics, I still feel they're the best team in the NBA, but they're letting the Hawks hang around. You never want to let a team that's below you hang around. But thanks for that update, the Ohio State. Jeff said they are in bad shape. I don't know if you are referring to the NBA game or the Jets, but if you're referring to the Jets, I definitely think that, Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to need a lot of help. I mean, going over to the Jets, that's great, but you're going to need to protect him and you're going to need some weapons on the outside. I think that either or would be a big addition for the Jets. I do think that they definitely need more offensive, line talent, and they need more offensive talent at the receiving core as well. I don't think they're a bad team. I think the Jets are improving, but it's interesting. The Ohio State said, did you see Giannis' post-game interview after the Bucks Game 5 loss? I did not catch that, so I'm not 100% sure what he said there, but if you would definitely like to inform me, I would appreciate it, but I did not see. I'll have to check it out after the game, though, for sure. After the draft and after all these NBA games, after all this, should be a lot of fun. Jeff said the Jets. Yeah, I mean, they're in bad shape. They're not in as bad shape as they were before. Jackson says Coach Salah is going to have a big jump in his third year. Yeah, he's going to have to, or he will not be there that long because, unfortunately, in the NFL, the nature of it is to not keep coaches long anymore. They want to win. Look at Matt Rule. The Panthers did not give him any time, and they got rid of him in college football at Nebraska. So I think that overall it's very interesting. You have to win. You have to find a way to be able to have success really quickly, in the NBA or in the NFL and in the NBA, both sports. If you don't have a lot of success, you get fired. I mean, it happens really quick. The Ohio State said, you should see what he said once the report asked him if he thought the season was a failure. The video was viral and everyone's talking about it. Okay, I definitely will check that out. Thanks for letting me know about that. I'll have to check that out for sure. I've definitely been trying to keep tabs. I remember there's so much stuff going on. NBA, NFL, it's so much fun. Sports news just keeps on rolling, and I really appreciate all you guys being on along for the ride. But we are at the 15th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. Who will the Jets take? Some people think that they will take a receiver. I think they need an offensive lineman, but as I said earlier, Broderick Jones, he just got taken off the board, so there's not really a top offensive lineman available, so they'll probably have to go a wide receiver unless they want to go a defender. But they did take Sauce Gardner last year, so maybe they don't really need it. With the best available, they got Will Levis out of Kentucky, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon, Nolan Smith, outside linebacker out of Georgia, Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston College, and Jack Smith and Jimmy, wide receiver out of Ohio State. That's what Mel Kiper has on his best available board. It's always crazy. There's usually one player that you feel like is going to get drafted a lot higher, and he sits on that best available list for a long time. Could be Will Levis, who knows? But you get to like the 5th round, there's one guy that a lot of people thought would get drafted in the 3rd round, and he's still available. But when he finally gets taken, people are like, wow, it finally happened. But it's crazy for sure. It's going to be really interesting to see as we continue. The NFL Draft is continuing on. A lot of great picks so far. Still, Bryce Young to the Panthers, C.J. Stroud to the Texans. Unbelievable there. Been a lot of crazy picks so far. But I do think that most teams have done a good job with these picks. I don't really think there's been necessarily any bad picks. I think most of these teams have done a great job with their picks, using them wisely, which is very smart. You want to use your picks wisely. You do not want to draft players that are not deserving of the spot, even if it's a team need. You want to be able to draft players that are the best at their position. It's not the fact necessarily that any of these players are bad. I think that all of these players are really good, but you want to be able to draft the best available player sometimes, not a team need. You want to draft the best available player, but sometimes that team need's more important. You have to take that instead. But still, regardless, all these players are being taken in the 1st round. Most of these players are fantastic. The Ohio State, do you have a favorite college football team only in sport? I remember you said you lean Panthers for the NFL. Well, I mean, I probably would have to say my favorite team in college football is probably Alabama, because I was, born and raised, family member-wise with Alabama, but I'm from North Carolina, live in North Carolina, so I like the Tar Heels as well. So I like Alabama because of ancestry. North Carolina because I live in the state. And Indiana, I've always had a soft spot for the Indiana Hoosiers because they're not a very good team. So those are kind of like my 3 favorite teams. But I just love college football in general. I love watching all these teams, all these different players for all these different teams. So I try to, just look at sports as a whole and not really let biases get in the way like a lot of people do. Just try to enjoy the sport at large. But I do, like a couple teams better. you could say, but not by much. It's not a big deal for me at all. I really just love watching all the debate, hearing about Ohio State versus Alabama, and then USC, Miami. It's really cool. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with all of these teams, and finally some of these teams getting their first players drafted as well. The Ohio State said, what do you think of the college football playoff spanning 12 teams after next season? Good question, but I do think that overall, again, it has its drawbacks. I've definitely talked about this with a lot of people before, and it has its drawbacks and its, potential. It has its potential good, things about it. It has, some things that could be great, but it also has drawbacks because of the fact. I think that if you go to 1990s college football, it would be a lot better to have the 12-team playoff because of the fact that the conference is more even, and to allow all these teams in the playoff would have been much more deserving. Now today, it just is not the same anymore because of the fact you have the Big Ten and the SEC being much more dominant now that you're adding all these teams, and I think it makes it less deserving of all of these conferences being able to be in the 12-team playoff. If the conference were even like it was in the 90s, it would make more sense. So it has its potential good things about it, but it also has drawbacks. Ohio State says some big regular season game will lose its intensity. Now, I agree because of the fact if you lose the game, you're still going to make the playoff. It's interesting. I just think that overall it was done for money, which is interesting. It always usually is, and I think that it could be cool if more teams get good, but unless that happens, then I don't think that necessarily it's going to be the greatest move. And plus, some of these conferences are going to get representatives from these teams that are not necessarily as good as some of these other teams, so it's just going to be very interesting overall. The New York Jets, finally the next pick is in. It's been a while. The 15th pick is about to come in for the New York Jets. We'll have to see who they end up deciding to pick. The Jets are a team. Some people are thinking that they will take a wide receiver. It's going to be very interesting to see who they take for sure. I think the Jets are a team that is trending in the right direction. They are a team that is starting to have some positive developments happen. They're not one of the worst teams in the NFL anymore, but they're still a team that has a lot of work to do if they want to get good. And Aaron Rodgers is not going to be there long. So if you want to win with him, you're going to have to find a way to win now. This pick could help, especially if it's a receiver for him to be able to throw to. We'll have to see what they end up deciding to do for sure. But I do think that overall, that whatever the Jets do, decide to pick, if it is a receiver, whether it's Zay Flowers or if it's Jackson Smith-Njigba, either pick will not be a bad pick at receiver. I think both players are really good, so I don't think either pick will be bad, to say the least. But they're about to announce the pick. Roger Goodell is about to come back out there and announce the 15th pick in the draft. We'll have to see who they decide to pick. I think they should go either with Zay Flowers or Jackson Smith-Njigba if they're going receiver. Both receivers are fantastic. The Ohio State says Jets will be one of the 3 AFC wildcard teams for the playoffs this upcoming season, I think. That could be true. I think they definitely could be. They are a team, like I said, that seems to be trending in the right direction. Getting Aaron Rodgers definitely ups their potential for sure. It's going to be very interesting. Definitely Jets fans are fired up for this pick. Definitely want to see who their team picks for their first pick in this year's draft. The pick will be about to come in. Who will they take? We're about halfway through the first round of the draft. It's been a lot of great picks so far, but the 15th pick is about to come in. They have Kyle Stickles, a young child from Make-A-Wish, about to do the pick. I really like when they have a lot of these people, different, like some celebrities and some people like from Make-A-Wish being able to do these picks. I think it's really awesome, the NFL, to have different, people be able to make these picks. I think that is really cool for sure, but they're definitely having a long speech about the Make-A-Wish. I think that is really cool of the NFL to do that. And the selection is in. The pick is in for the New York Jets. Who will they pick for their 15th pick in the draft? I don't think you can really go wrong here at receiver if you take either of the two, but they could surprise and go with an entirely different player at an entirely different position. It should be very interesting for sure. And they decided to take Will McDonald IV, outside linebacker out of Iowa State. That's out of left field. Not expected there. Will McDonald, a really solid player. But he was a guy that I think was being projected a little bit lower. A guy potentially will be taken around the 20s, 20 to 25. But he got taken 15, linebacker, Will McDonald IV out of Iowa State. That's kind of the first surprise for me. I think all the ones before Will McDonald was not too surprising. That one was kind of a surprise. Jackson says McDonald from Iowa State is officially a Jet. yeah, that's a good pick. I think he is a really good player, but maybe a guy could have been taken a bit lower. But he is a really solid player and definitely could help out the Jets defense. They definitely did struggle on the defense side of the ball, so I can definitely see it. But they could have taken a receiver as well, but I don't think it was a bad pick. The Ohio State, I like the kid's passion and energy. He definitely was very energetic. That was really cool to see him up there making that pick for sure. But now you've got Washington. They're on the clock. Who will they pick with their first pick in this draft? They have the 16th pick. They're still all the way to pick 31. So we still have a little while to go. A lot more picks to make in the first round of this draft. Definitely you will not have as long on some of these picks that go on longer. You know, in day 2 and day 3, usually the picks go by a little quicker. But in this first round, they definitely like to draw it out and make it, you know, very impactful each pick that happens. Definitely a lot of fun. Really appreciate all you guys for being here. It's been a lot of fun tonight. We'll have to see who Washington decides to take with the 16th pick in the draft. Will Levis is still available. Of all the quarterbacks, you know, that people thought would be taken in the first round, that's very interesting for sure to have him, you know, still available. They're saying that Will McDonald IV is the first Iowa State player selected in the first round since 1973. That's unbelievable. That's 50 years ago. Will McDonald IV is the first Iowa State player in the first round selected since 1973. That's 50 years ago. That has to be the longest streak in college football. That is broken. I don't know if there's any other team that has not, at least the Power 5. I mean, probably smaller schools for sure have not had players drafted in the first round, but in the Power 5, it has to be the longest draft. I know there's teams like Indiana that have not had a first-round draft pick in a long time. Maybe Vanderbilt. I don't know when the last time they've had one, but man, Will McDonald, the first-round draft pick out of Iowa State since 1973. That is incredible. That is history being made right there. So that's really awesome for the school in Iowa State and for Will McDonald. Really cool to see that happen. Angelo says, didn't the Commanders consider trading Chase Young? Maybe they did. I'm not 100% sure, but definitely would not do that. But they're showing Hendon Hooker and they are showing Will Levis as they wait to be drafted. I definitely think that Will Levis, his odds of being drafted are a lot better in this first round than Hendon Hooker based on his ACL injury. Very unfortunate for him. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens as we move on in this draft. Still a lot of picks to go, but really appreciate all you guys for being here. Jack says Matt Campbell's having a fantastic impact on Iowa State. Yes, he is. Unfortunately, Iowa State took a big, massive step back this past season. They were not as good as they were a couple years ago with Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, Charlie Kolar. So very interesting there, but I do think that Matt Campbell still has done a good job with Iowa State, and being able to get a first-round draft pick for the first time since 1973 is a really good sign, but he's going to have to find a way to continue having Iowa State playing good football, or he could be in a little bit of trouble. Buckeye Mike said they just don't want to give him his money. I mean, that definitely could be a point there, but sometimes you don't want to have to pay a guy until he either proves that he's elite, which I do think Chase Young is really good, or sometimes you just don't have the money and you're trying to find a way to spread it around on your roster. It's really interesting. Mike thinks Will Levis is going to go to Washington. That could happen. We've been saying Will Levis to this, Will Levis to that for a while. Will Levis has not gone anywhere. So it will be interesting to see if Will Levis is finally taken. Angelo says, thanks, Buckeye Mike. Welcome Will Levis to Washington. It's just a guess. Oh, for sure. It's definitely a guess. But it could happen. I mean, you could be right. It definitely could happen. But Will Levis is eventually going to get taken off the board. But it definitely goes to show you that people are skeptical of Will Levis. Is he, a guy that should have been drafted in the first round at all? I think he definitely is a guy that's talented. He can run the football. He can throw, but no one has taken him yet. But if I had to guess, he will get taken in this first round eventually. But, I mean, it's tough to draft a quarterback because a lot of these teams already have quarterbacks. They've already taken 3 with Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, and C.J. Stroud. But I still do think that Will Levis will be taken. Mike says Sally Hendon Hooker's probably day 2 guy. I agree. I mean, he got hurt. If he wasn't hurt, he probably would have been day 1. It's unfortunate, but Hendon Hooker, his time will come. He will get drafted. I think he could have success in the NFL yet. I don't think that he's a guy that just because he got hurt, his career is going to be severely hampered. I think he could still have a lot of success. He is a fantastic player, had a lot of success at Tennessee. He's just going to have to find a way to stay healthy overall. Jackson says maybe the Vikings get Hendon Hooker. I mean, there's so many questions. That's what makes the NFL draft so much fun, is because there's so many questions. You don't know who these teams are going to take. You're wondering what position are they going to take, what player are they going to take. It's very interesting. Mike says Hendon Hooker here to Washington would be a good fit. If Hendon Hooker doesn't get drafted by Washington, it's going to be hard to see Hendon Hooker getting drafted. I think that overall, Hendon Hooker is a good quarterback. I really do. He had a great season for Tennessee. He was not turnover prone at all, but that ACL injury really hurt. But you never know. They could take a chance on Hendon Hooker. They could draft him here. We'll have to see. If they do take a Will Levis or a Hendon Hooker, will they draft a player from a different position? We were surprised with the Jets drafting Will McDonald, first player out of Iowa State draft in the first round since 1973. We thought that they were going to, take a receiver, but that did not happen. Jack said the Commanders are better off without Snyder either way. I mean, that's an interesting situation. That's a whole other topic for a whole other debate there with him. But for sure, maybe Washington will be a team that does improve in the future, but their pick is in, and they might be about to announce as these picks try to roll in here. We still got plenty of time left. Cornerback Emmanuel Forbes out of Mississippi State. They don't go quarterback. They go cornerback. 6'1", 166-pound cornerback out of Mississippi State. He is taken next in the draft. Very interesting there overall. I definitely think he is a guy with a lot of talent. He was very good at Mississippi State, but that is who Washington decides to take. I don't think that's a bad pick. I think he's a very solid player. But very interesting overall. Will another quarterback be taken in this first round? Who knows? It's going to be very interesting. But Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback out of Mississippi State, is the next pick that is off the board. Now the Patriots, who had a higher pick, now they have the 17th pick in the draft, and their pick is in. Who will they pick? Will they go out there and draft a receiver? Will they draft a quarterback? I don't think they'll draft a quarterback. I don't really think they need one. So I don't think they'll go with Will Levis. I don't think that they're going to go either with Hendon Hooker because they do have Mac Jones. They do have Bailey Zappi. So I don't think that they're going to draft a quarterback. But you never know. It's always good insurance policy to have a lot of quarterbacks on your roster to be able to see who ends up being the best one. But I do not think that they will end up taking a quarterback. So I do think they probably will go receiver, and they could go Zay Flowers. They could go Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's going to be very interesting to see for sure. But the Patriots, I think they also need more offensive linemen as well to be able to protect Mac Jones, but there's not a lot of offensive linemen available right now. Jada's here. Thanks for being here. Says, hi, Jeff. Crazy night last night. How's the draft going with quarterbacks? Yeah, it was for sure. The internet was crazy. And then you had the games were crazy. It was awesome. I really appreciate you for being there last night. Thanks for being here again. It's been a lot of fun for sure. The draft with the quarterbacks. You've had number 1, you had Bryce Young being taken to the Panthers. CJ Stroud went number 2 to the Texans. Number 4 was Anthony Richardson to the Colts. And we have not had another quarterback since. No Will Levis. And we have not had Hendon Hooker or any of the other quarterbacks just yet. But thanks for being here. It's been a lot of fun so far. Jack said the Patriots are up for a disaster in 2023. They're basically the Spurs of the NFL. Yeah, I mean, it's not looking that great. I think they're going to have to find a way to really turn that ship around soon, or it could be a long season next year for the Patriots. They definitely need to find a way to have success, or it could be bad for them. But the Patriots, their pick is in. And they go with another cornerback, Christian Gonzalez. He was a player that's been on the board for a while, waiting to be taken. A 6'1", 197-pound corner out of Oregon. He is off the board. I think that's a good pick. He'll help out their defense for sure. Christian Gonzalez, a really good corner out of Oregon, but still no quarterback take, no receiver. So you still have Zay Flowers and Jackson Smith and Jigba on the board, and you still have Will Levis on the board. Really interesting there. Will Levis has been the best available for a while now. Jackson says Christian Gonzalez to the pass, no surprise there. I mean, definitely depending on if you had a feeling like who they were going to take, what they needed, and they definitely, I guess, needed a corner, and they got that corner. Should help their defense out. He was a great player at Oregon, but I still think they need help on the offense as well. But really no offensive lineman available, maybe receivers, so a good pick. Josh is a great pick there. I agree. I think that he is a fantastic player. And you want to sometimes take the best player available, and you could argue that he was for sure because of the fact he was a guy that was available still for a while. Jackson, he thinks that Kincaid is going to go to the Lions. It shows right here the best fit, Dalton Kincaid from Utah going to Detroit. That could happen. They do potentially need a tight end. Will they take Dalton Kincaid? Who knows? The Lions are a team and have already made a pick. The Lions are an improving football team. They took Jahmyr Gibbs. Josh says, how the Ohio players going? Well, for sure, you have CJ Stroud. He went 2nd overall. To the Texans, you had Paris Johnson. He was taken high as well. To the Arizona Cardinals at number 6. So definitely some good players from Ohio State going into the draft. All right, Jess says Tampa Bay might pick a quarterback. I agree with you. I think they definitely could. Tampa Bay, they need a quarterback. I mean, their quarterback room's not that great, unfortunately, since the legendary Tom Brady has decided to retire, and he might be officially retired this time, not coming back to the NFL game, which is kind of sad to see. But Tampa Bay, they will definitely need a quarterback. They could go with Will Levis. They could go with someone else. Who knows? If they have the 19th pick, they could go with Will Levis or Hendon Hooker. But Christian Gonzalez, I think that was a good pick for the New England Patriots. Who will the Detroit Lions take? It's going to be very interesting for sure. They're showing Will Levis 43 passing touchdowns in his career, 5th in Kentucky history to Will Levis. They show Will Levis getting a hug from his mom, trying to help keep his spirits up. That's kind of funny there. It's kind of cute to see. You definitely want to see your son get drafted for sure. And hopefully Will Levis will be able to finally get drafted soon. It was really funny to see because Will Levis, he just kind of like shrugging it off like there's nothing we can do about it, but it was really cute with his mom. It was definitely a good moment there to see. But definitely Will Levis, he's still hanging around. Best available is what they have on the board with Mel Kiper, but nobody is taking a bite on Will Levis yet. But as Jeff says, I agree that it definitely could be Tampa Bay taking Will Levis. They do need a quarterback, and they definitely could bite the bullet and get Will Levis. But it has on there with Detroit team needs. They got running back, or they could take tight end Dalton Kincaid as the best fit. We'll have to see for sure. I think either another running back or a tight end would work, but they did already get Jahmyr Gibbs, so they probably, overall do not need another running back. They could get one to be able to shore up that spot, but probably do need to take a tight end with Dalton Kincaid. It will be interesting. Jeff says, I think he thought he'd be picked earlier. I thought, that he would be picked maybe around the top 15. I don't know necessarily if he was a top 15 caliber player to be able to be picked that high, but he had the tantalizing abilities like Anthony Richardson. It kind of came down to Anthony Richardson or Will Levis was going to be the last quarterback taken really high, and it ended up being Anthony Richardson who the Colts took. So unfortunately for Will Levis, he is dropped. If Anthony Richardson wasn't taken and Will Levis had gone 4th overall, I think that Anthony Richardson might still be available. Maybe not, but I think that could have been how it went. Because unfortunately, when 3 quarterbacks are taken, no one else really needs more. No one's just taken one yet. But, I think he thought he would be taken earlier as well. I agree with you. But, it is what it is. He definitely showed flashes at Kentucky, but I think the other 3 quarterbacks showed more flashes. Especially Stroud and Young. Both of those quarterbacks should have been drafted high for sure. Richardson, he's just so athletic and so talented that it's not too surprising, but it is really interesting for sure. Bug on Mike said, can we see someone like Hooker or Levis in USFL or XFL next season? Probably not. I don't think that you're going to draft somebody this high for them to be out of the NFL in 1 year. If you're going to be drafting like the 6th round or the 5th round of the quarterback, yeah, you could be in the XFL or USFL next season, but not a quarterback like Hooker or Levis who's probably going to be drafted in the 1st through 2nd or even maybe 3rd round. I don't think you're going to be in the XFL or USFL until a couple seasons. I think that if you're drafted that high, a team's going to keep you for at least a year or two. You're not going to get taken off the team. You look at someone like Jordan Love. He was drafted the 1st round of the Packers. He's been sitting behind Aaron Rodgers the whole time, and he hasn't gone anywhere. I don't think that that's going to happen. Jeff says, no, I don't think so either. Again, when you're being drafted so high, you're not gonna happen. Mike said just wishful thinking, I guess. It for sure is. It has to be wishful thinking. If you're going to have Will Levis drafted 19th by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no way he's going to be going to the XFL USFL next season. He could if he was drafted in the 5th or 6th round, but Will Levis isn't going to fall that far. And I feel like Hendon Hooker will get taken in the 2nd round as well. He's definitely 1st-round quarterback material, but he got hurt, and that's what's pushed him down. But it's interesting. Hey, wishful thinking is not bad. I respect it, Mike. I do, but I don't think that's going to happen for sure. They're going to be taken too high that they're not going to get knocked out of the NFL in a year. But the Lions, their pick is in. I'm sure their pick is going to be coming in soon. We'll have to see who they decide to take. It's been a lot of fun so far with the NFL draft, seeing who has been taken so far. It's been a lot of fun. Really appreciate all you guys in here. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. But really appreciate you guys for being. It's been a lot of fun. Mike says Tampa Bay has Baker already. They guarantee in the starter spot. I would draft him Webb as not a replacement. Well, I don't think that's smart to go out there and say that they've guaranteed the starter spot. I mean, you want to give him competition. I would draft a quarterback and give him competition. I think that would be the smart move. You get Will Levis and he can compete with Baker. That's probably a smart move for sure. I mean, you could be right on that, but I just don't think that's a smart move. If that's what Tampa Bay's done, you need to give competition to a quarterback that isn't going out there and proving that he's the best quarterback for you. I think that would be a good move for Tampa Bay to be able to give him competition. Jack says Jack Campbell is officially a Detroit Lion. So if you're a little bit ahead of me, not sure because I haven't seen the pick yet, or that's just a gut feeling of yours, going to be very interesting. But they said with the ESPN analyst, quarterback Will Levis, 1.8% chance he'll be available at pick 18. I don't agree with that on the ESPN analytics. 2% chance. I think that they were definitely banking on him being drafted potentially over Anthony Richardson. I don't think it's a shock at all, though. I mean, Will Levis, before this season, he wasn't even projected as a top first-round draft pick. I think Will Levis has a lot of potential, and he's a really solid player, but he's definitely not a guy that you would think that would have been drafted in the first round before this season. So it's very interesting. I mean, a lot of people are saying it's surprising. I don't think it really is based on the way I viewed Will Levis from last season, that he was not going to be this high of a pick. But I really think it's unfortunate for Will Levis, especially when you get your hopes of thinking you're going to be drafted higher. But, hey, he's still more likely going to be a first-round draft pick, which is still awesome. Hopefully he does get drafted soon. The 18th pick in the draft for the Detroit Lions will be their second pick. Definitely the fans are getting really excited. Their team has been improving. They were 9-8 last year, and they definitely had the potential to be an even better team this next season. Things are trending in the right direction for the Detroit Lions, that they could be a team that just continues to improve in the future, which is a good sign for their prospect. You definitely want to be able to take Jack Campbell. So Jackson's correct. They do take inside linebacker Jack Campbell out of Iowa, 6'5", 249 pounds. He's a good player. Jack Campbell and Lucas Van Ness were two fantastic players on Iowa's defense. Again, if you're drafting a player on Iowa on the offense side of the ball, it's usually a tight end or an offensive lineman. But on defense, their linebackers, edge rushers, corners, all of them are great for Iowa on the defense side of the ball. And Jack Campbell, he's a fantastic player that I think will have a lot of success in the NFL next season for the Detroit Lions. A good pick there, a guy that you could have already maybe could have been drafted earlier. Some people probably thought he still could have been available, but he is a really solid player for sure. But this right here is where you feel like potentially Will Levis could get drafted right here to the Tampa Bay Bucks. If he's going to get drafted anywhere, it's probably going to be here in the first round, you would think, to the Tampa Bay Bucks. They need a quarterback. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens for sure. I'm looking forward to what they decide. But Will Levis, will he go to the Tampa Bay Bucks, or will he continue to slide down the board? They have on here the best fit, Myles Murphy, defensive end. It's going to be interesting. As Mike said, he feels like Baker, they've already guaranteed the spot, so they are not going to draft a replacement. Hey, again, competition could be key. We'll have to see what they decide to do. The pick is in for the Tampa Bay Bucks, so they will be announcing their pick very shortly. The draft has been going on for over 2 hours. They've definitely had a lot of these picks take a long time to build that anticipation, but we are starting to wind down. We're almost 2/3 through the first round. It's getting very interesting for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun day 2 and day 3 with all these picks, even all the way down to Mr. Irrelevant. It's so much fun with the NFL draft every single season. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the pick is in, and they're going to be announcing it in the shorthand. But the Lions fan, they are very happy for sure to be able to see their team draft two really good players in the first round. I think that both players, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, will definitely help out their team next season, potentially be an even better team next year in the NFL. They definitely could be a team that makes the playoff and maybe be able to win a playoff game for the first time in a long time. But will Tampa Bay, will they decide to draft Will Levis? Will Will Levis finally be off the board, or will he continue to drop? He is waiting in anticipation. It's going to be very interesting for sure. I could go to Tampa Bay. They probably back, but it's going to be very interesting. What will they decide to do? And if he doesn't get taken by Tampa Bay, he could drop a lot further, maybe even out of the first round. Who knows? It's going to be very interesting. But I do think he could be taken here. If he's going to get taken here, and it probably will be his best bet to get taken in the first round to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that would be the best spot for him for sure. I don't think that him falling further would really help out his regard at all. It would really hurt. Jackson's Bucks are getting Cansey. Levis is unfortunately going to sit and wait a little while longer. So definitely Jackson thinks that Levis is going to sit. I mean, it could happen. I mean, if he's going to continue to sit, he could fall out of the first round, which would be really tough for him. I hope he does get drafted in the first round because he was projected so high. It's very unfortunate to continue to sit, but he will eventually get drafted. He is too good. And yep, Jackson is right. Kalijah Cansey, defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh, 6'1", 281 pounds, is drafted. And he's a little small for a defensive tackle, only 281 pounds. He is on the smaller side for a defensive tackle, but he is a really talented player, has a lot of burst off the D-line, and that's probably why he got drafted in the first round. He has a lot of talent out of Pittsburgh, but that is a potentially good pick for the Bucs. But hey, it definitely is looking like Will Levis is going to continue to sit. Unfortunately for him, they did not take a quarterback, but Kalijah Cansey, he is a very good defensive tackle. He's on the smaller side, but he is a very quick defensive tackle. And they're comparing him to Aaron Donald. Both players are very quick off the edge. Clint Mo says Seahawks, they're up next. They're on the clock. Who will they draft this time around? Going to be very interesting for sure. But you still have Zay Flowers on the board. You still have Jackson Smith-Njigba on the board. Will Levis, incredible. Jada says, saw Jack Campbell play. He's very good, for sure. Iowa on defense is really solid. Their defensive players are always great. It's their offensive players that stroll outside of their offensive linemen and their tight ends. And they sometimes have a good running back every now and then. But their defense is fantastic. They've always drafted and developed great defensive players. They're like defensive university outside of the top schools like Bama and Georgia. They just get so many underrated players, and then they develop them into great players on the defensive side of the ball. So I agree that Jack Campbell is really good. But they're showing Aaron Donald and Kalijah Cansey, both very similar players in size. They're both on the smaller side for defensive tackles in weight, but they have so much speed, and that's what makes them so dangerous, being able to come downhill and get to quarterbacks and running backs. I think that's a good pick. I think that definitely is a good pick overall for the Tampa Bay Bucs. Even though they could have got a quarterback. They definitely could have gotten a quarterback, but they did not. They decided overall to go with a defensive tackle instead of a quarterback. Very interesting there. I think they definitely could have decided to take a quarterback in Will Levis, but they did not. They went with a defensive player. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to go with a defensive player. I mean, hey, defensive players are really solid. You want to be able, overall to be able to have defense as well. It's not just offense. Offense does not always win in the NFL. You have to have a good offense, but you have to have a good defense. If you want to be able to win the Super Bowl or you want to be able to win March Madness, you have to be good on both sides of the ball, or you're usually not going to be able to win. Mike says Will Levis to Seattle. Maybe, but they do have Geno Smith. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback overall. It's possible, but I would doubt it. I think that they're going to have Geno Smith. They're probably not going to draft Will Levis as a backup. They could draft Will Levis as a developmental quarterback behind Geno Smith, maybe as a player that could be able to push him, but I don't think so. Mike says 10 picks left. Yeah, we're getting toward the end of the first round. It's been a lot of fun for sure. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. But more importantly, thanks for being here, everybody. Really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun doing the first round of the NFL draft. 10 picks left for sure. It's been loads of fun. Josh says Boston Hawks tie, Jeff, for sure. What a game there. So much sports going on at the same time. Thanks for the update there, Jada. Buckeye Mike says, I don't know how I feel if Smith-Njigba ends up in KC. Well, I mean, hey, even if you're not a big fan of Kansas City, it'll be really cool to have him on the team, be able to root for him. Still, it doesn't really matter. Just a lot of fun. I really like enjoying all of the NFL teams and the college football and basketball teams. It makes it so much fun. But I think that Smith-Njigba, wherever he goes, will have a lot of success. But he'll probably have even more success with KC, because if he really develops as the type receiver that he could be, then he'll definitely be a great target for Mahomes. Be able to have a lot of success. He'll be with a quarterback that is proven and be able to go out there and play at a high level. I think that definitely would, potentially work wonder for him to be able to go out there and have that really good, quarterback throwing the ball to you. You're not going to be on a team that's going to have bad quarterback play that won't be able to throw the ball to you. Because sometimes it's never good when you have it on a team when you don't have a good quarterback and they're not able to get the ball to you at a high level, and then you're just kind of running around out there for nothing. But if you got a great quarterback, that could definitely help you out and grow as a player as well, because you're getting more opportunities to get the ball thrown your way. Now, granted, the Chiefs do have a lot of great receivers, so maybe they don't really need one, but still it's going to be very interesting for sure. But they're showing that the best available player is still Will Levis, and the best fit is wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba. Maybe he does decide to go to the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to be very interesting for sure. I would doubt that Will Levis does get drafted by Seattle because of the fact that they do have Geno Smith. I don't think that's going to happen, but still going to be very interesting to see what happens nonetheless. The NFL draft's been a lot of fun so far. There's been so many great picks to all these teams. I think that this year's draft class has been very talented. I think there's been a lot of great players overall. It's been so many talented players, and that has really helped these teams being able to improve. And hey, you think you get a good draft pick, and then the team next to you gets a good draft pick as well. It's going to make the NFL very competitive next season and beyond. So many great players coming out of college. I think that all these training programs, these players wanting to get to the NFL helps more players be good. And yes, we're in the first round, so you're taking the most talented players, but still, it just seems like there's so many great players to take that you have to be a part of the elite to get taken in the top part of the draft. It's crazy. And Will Levis, he is still on the board, but Seattle, the clock is winding down. They're still trying to make their pick. Clock's winding down to around a minute to go. They will get their pick in, and we'll see what the Seattle Seahawks decide to pick with the 20th pick in the draft. There's 31 picks in the first round of this draft. 1.1% chance he'll be available at pick 20. They're updating the percentages for Will Levis, definitely falling farther than a lot of people thought. But again, he will be drafted eventually, and hopefully for him it will be really soon. But still, a lot of good picks left. 11 picks left in the first round of the NFL draft. Will Levis is still waiting. He's on his phone. He is hoping that he will get drafted really soon. He is wanting to get drafted, and I don't blame him. The longer you're sitting there, it is tough because you want to go out there and finally get it off your chest, know where you're going. And you think about these guys that have to wait till day 2 and day 3. It's really agonizing. They want to go ahead and get it over with. You want to be drafted in that first round, but it is what it is. Sometimes you have to wait. But once you know, finally get that off your chest, and things can start moving forward, and you can get going with your new team. It is definitely a process overall. But Seattle taking a long time to get this pick in, but the pick is in. They're going to be announcing it real soon. Seattle hoping they can get a really good player at the 20th pick in the draft. We'll see who they take. Will they take a quarterback? I don't think they will. Will they take a receiver? It's going to be very interesting to see who Seattle takes with the 20th pick in the draft. I'm sure Roger Goodell will be going back up on the stage really soon to do the 20th pick in the draft. But I think that looking at all these picks, a lot of these picks have been good fits for these teams. These teams have needed good players. They have needed all the positions that these teams have gotten players at. And I think that these teams have done a really solid job getting in these players. I think overall, they've done a great job for the most part. I don't really think there's been many bad picks. Will McDonald might have been a questionable one, but it's really cool for Iowa State to get their first-round draft pick since 1973. And it's a really good pick for Will McDonald getting drafted. And I think that most of these picks have been really solid. Most of these teams have done a good job, so I don't really have any complaints there. I feel like these teams have done a good job. They know what they're doing. These teams know what they need. And these teams draft accordingly, and they try to move up to the part in the draft where they know they're going to get the player that they want. It's a smart move to be able to make trades, and you can get the player that you normally could not get if you were lower. And sometimes it's smart to be able to make that trade down a bit to get the same player you would have got higher, and then you can get another pick or two along with it. Some of these teams are really smart. They know exactly what they are doing. Definitely 4D chess, a lot of these teams do. Really do a good job overall. I think it's a very smart decision by a lot of these teams to trade down. You just don't want to get a player that you could get low or higher. It's just smart. I mean, a lot of these teams are doing the right thing. And I think as we continue to go along, these teams will continue to be smart as well, making these correct decisions overall. And Seattle, their pick is in. We're about to find out who the 20th pick in the draft will be. And hopefully it is a really solid player overall for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm sure they will. A lot of these players have been smart, picking the correct players at the right positions at the right spot in the draft. And Roger Goodell, he will be coming back out for the Seattle Seahawks with the 20th pick in the draft. Probably be a player. It could be a wide receiver. It could be a guy that's on the defensive side of the ball. Don't really see it being quarterback Will Levis, but it's going to be very interesting for sure to see who they decide to take. But Roger Goodell, he is up there on stage with a bunch of different players, younger players, looks like athletes from high school or maybe middle school. It's really cool to have them up there for sure, to be able to announce the pick. Really cool when the NFL decides to do that. But the Seahawks, the pick is in, and they go with Jackson Smith-Njigba. They finally take Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver, out of the Seattle. The Seahawks get the wide receiver out of Ohio State and Jackson Smith-Njigba. That is insane right there. What a pick. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a really good wide receiver. He had a great season at Ohio State. Yes, he was hurt and was not able to play in the CFP, but he is a good wide receiver. Jackson Smith-Njigba finally is taken. What a pick right there for the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's a good move. Clint Moses, Jackson Smith-Njigba has a bunch of hearts. That's really cool. Jack says to Seattle, I think that's a good pick overall. And Clint Moses said, let's go. But I think that's a good pick. I mean, he's definitely a good player. Putting the link in the chat if any of you guys want to come in and talk about the draft as we're starting to wind down toward the end. Clint Moses says, what a steal. I agree with you. I mean, that's a good pick because he fell a lot further than a lot of people thought. If you think Will Levis fell, so did Jackson Smith-Njigba, but his injury is why he fell. He is a fantastic player, but he did fall in the draft. And he ended up being lower than a lot of people thought that he was going to be. But sometimes injuries knock you down. You look at Hendon Hooker, he fell as well. And that's what ended up happening to Jackson Smith-Njigba. He fell a few spots because of the fact that he was hurt and he did not play in the CFP, but he is still a fantastic receiver. That game he had against the Utah Utes and the Rose Bowl was still incredible. That performance was insane. So he is a really talented player. They're showing his highlights against the Utes. So he is a fantastic receiver. Definitely think he will help out the Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith have a target to throw to. So you've got Jackson Smith-Njigba finally taken with the 20th pick in the draft. That is crazy. But now the Chargers, they're going to be up. The Los Angeles Chargers are up next. We'll have to see who they take. Definitely have the potential to be able to get a good player. But I agree. I think Smith-Njigba is definitely a steal. I've dropped the link in the chat if you guys would like to come in and talk about the draft. It's been a lot of fun so far. Really appreciate all you guys for being here. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens as we move on in this first round of the draft. The Chargers are up next. We have around 9 or 10 picks left. It's going to be very interesting to see who all these teams take. Will Levis be in the first round? Be very interesting to see what they decide to do. The Seahawks are very happy that they got Jackson Smith-Njigba. Again, I think that was a great decision to get him. He's a fantastic player. Their draft watch party is very happy. And we have Jackson Johnson here. How are you doing, my man? What are you feeling about the NFL draft so far? How has it been?
Well, I didn't think Will Levis would be sitting there this long, to tell you the truth. I didn't think Flowers would be sitting there this long either. But the Seahawks, they got a beautiful 2023 ahead of them.
I agree with you.
Yeah, because, I mean, DK Metcalf, the Rebel, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, oh, man, that's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kenneth Walker, running back, and Geno Smith is looking really good for the Seattle Seahawks. I agree.
For sure. Metcalf is a Rebel who is Panther quick and leather tough. For sure.
So, of all the players that are still available, like you mentioned, Zay Flowers, Will Levis, who's the most surprising for you that is not drafted yet?
Levis, because of all the hype around him, it's just Yeah, we heard Will Levis this, Will Levis that. Oh man, Will Levis going to be drafted by the Colts. Oh man, Will Levis going to be drafted by the Panthers, but he's just got sitting there.
Well, I mean, I think he's really good. I do. But the problem is that he didn't have a great season last year, and he was hurt some. He has all the abilities that Anthony Richardson has, but maybe not as well. But I just think that, potentially people kind of bought into that and thought that teams were going to buy into it as well, but the teams aren't. The draft people did, but the teams aren't.
Right. But I'm kind of wondering if Flowers gets drafted by the Chargers in the next few minutes.
That would be a good pick. He's really good.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert needs all the weapons he can get.
Yeah, I agree. I think he also would, need some offensive line, but there's not any offensive linemen really available right now that are really good. All those have been taken.
Well, I mean, there's always a draft steal. That's what the NFL draft is.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they always talk about Tom Brady at 199, 6th round, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, sometimes you can get an offensive lineman, or somebody that's ranked lower, but they move up. But I do agree with you that you can get a draft steal, but probably not going to draft an offensive lineman here. But I do think the Chargers do need linemen. They didn't protect Herbert that well last season.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at Devon Witherspoon, who was drafted by the Seahawks. Illinois was the only Power 5 school to offer him anything, really. The rest were all group of fives: Massachusetts, Appalachian State, Temple, and South Alabama, who, by the way, has your boy Kane Womack as head coach.
He's really good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, sometimes you can get the diamond in the rough players. He was not a guy that people were thinking out of high school that was going to be great, and he ends up being the 5th pick in the draft. Like people say, sometimes the 3 stars end up doing better than the 5 star. Not always, but sometimes.
Devon Witherspoon was a 0-star.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, just because somebody's a 5-star does not mean they're automatically going to succeed. Like that's like saying the most popular kid in high school is automatically going to succeed because they were the most popular in high school.
It definitely does not happen.
Oh, we got ourselves Quentin Johnston from TCU.
Wow.
By the Los Angeles Chargers.
They went with a big receiver instead of a short one. They didn't go with Zay Flowers. I mean, he's a really small receiver, but he's quick. But they went with the big-bodied Quentin Johnston.
Oh, yeah. They love that surprise year from TCU in the 2022 season. They were really thinking, we've got to get this guy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a really good receiver. I remember that catch he had against Michigan where he had that angle and he just blew by the Michigan defender, ran all the way to the end zone. He's a good receiver. I mean, he's huge. I mean, he's 6'3", 210 pounds. He's a big receiver.
Oh, man. That is a big win right there. Now we're going to see who's next on the list.
Baltimore
Ravens. Oh, man, on the eve of a big contract extension of Lamar Jackson.
Can you believe, Matt, $260 million? That is insane.
And $185 million guaranteed. That's big.
I mean, he's the most expensive player now in the NFL.
Yep.
Crazy.
And the deal eclipsed the Jalen Hurts deal.
I mean, they're just going to keep going up. It's almost like these coaches, how you had Nick Saban and Dabo Sweeney and Kirby Smart, all of the deals just keep going up to be the highest paid coach in college football. It's just going to keep happening with the players. They're just going to keep upping the ante, and the next player is going to get paid more than this guy, and it just keeps doing it.
Agreed. That's for sure.
What people don't understand is paying a guy more doesn't make them better.
No.
You pay him less, and he's the same player.
Oh, agreed. We've seen it work out in the past several years, and it's never really worked out for some of these teams. But
even with coaches too, I mean, you look at like Mel Tucker. I mean, he got the big contract at Michigan State, and he's really struggling there right now. Hopefully, he can get it turned around. But he had the good year, and it was not too good last season.
I'm thinking maybe he can, but before we can talk about Michigan State getting through Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, we'll have to see if they get through Michael Penix Jr. in Washington in the upcoming season. So
For sure.
oh yeah. Well, the Ravens. Let's see. Well, they need a receiver. Well, another one.
How
Well,
you doing, man? How
they
you
need
doing, Mike?
and they need a cornerback, a receiver, linebacker. Well, another one. Well,
How you doing, man?
they need a,
Mike.
and they need a cornerback, a receiver, linebacker. Well, another one. Well, how you doing, man?
I think Mike's got the replay going on right now, and it's making noise. But
noise.
that's funny. But how you doing, man?
Yeah, and
that was quite a pick.
Baltimore. So,
what pick has surprised you the most tonight, Mike?
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Jackson, in the sense of I had the feel of he wasn't going to be so low. So to Clint's point, what a steal. I had a feeling he was going to be right around 9-10, wherever Chicago was going to end up. But like I've been saying all night, all of these picks, for the most part, banger after banger after banger. And to your point, a lot of these guys have higher potential than they have higher chance of failure.
Yes. I feel like a lot of this draft has so many talented players that weren't like guaranteed like talent, like they're elite already, but the ability is there to be fantastic. Something like Kalijah Cansey being compared to Aaron Donald. Kalijah Cansey, is he a guy that maybe should be drafted as high in a normal draft? Probably not, but he's a guy that could be great. All these guys could be great. The floor is not low. The floor is high. The ceiling's even higher. So I completely agree. Now, an interesting question, since because I mean we're 2 hours and 40 minutes in. I saw you ended your stream. The draft takes a while. I forgot how long the first round takes. They really drag it out. How do you feel about that? Feel like they should speed up a bit?
I mean, if you're gonna give us banger after banger like this, take as long as you need. I've noticed that, like, I'm watching the ABC version, and they're not really going super in depth on like the player themselves. It's kind of like, few seconds of like a backstory kind of thing on the guy, and then it shifts over to the panel, and it's like everyone give 1 to 2 points, and then you loop back around, and it's like the Jonas Brothers segment earlier in the freaking draft. That by itself was more about the Jonas Brothers than it even was about the draft.
Who's watching the NFL draft to watch the Jonas Brothers? That's my question.
Yeah, that's funny right there. I mean, probably people your age and maybe 30 know the Jonas Brothers for sure, but my age, it's a little too young. I mean, I know the Jonas Brothers, but they were definitely a phenomenon around 2000, 2005.
Like, good Lord.
But yeah, man, Lamar Jackson, that is insane. I mean,
Zay Flowers
contract.
It's looking like Zay Flowers is going to be a Raven. Man, they are stacking up that offense for Baltimore. For sure. That's going to be a big win right there. I mean, you got Odell Beckham. It's a good thing that you're not overly reliant on Odell Beckham, because that didn't exactly work out in Cleveland. So what happens now is you have Odell and you got old Zay Flowers for Baltimore, which that's going to help play. And you don't have to just only throw to Prince Andrew anymore. I mean, you don't have to do that anymore. You got all these receivers now. That's going to be a big win for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens.
I still think it's funny that Zay Flowers, people were thinking he was going to leave Boston College for another team, kind of like Jordan Addison left Pitt for USC, but Zay Flowers said he was staying at Boston College no matter what. I still think it's crazy.
I mean, worked out for him. So there we go.
I mean, that's funny to me. It says on Baltimore's needs at number 4 is a quarterback. When you just broke the bank and caved to the one guy that you already have at quarterback.
Well, I mean, maybe you draft like a quarterback in like the 6th or 7th round as a backup.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they're thinking more like third string.
Oh, here we go.
Zay Flowers.
Yep, Zay Flowers. Yep. I mean, you guys are a little ahead of me. I'm like, just there it is. Wide receiver Zay Flowers right there. 5'9", 182 out of BC. Can you believe that no player out of Iowa State since 1973 was drafted in the first round with Will McDonald? 1973. They haven't had a first-round draft pick in 50 years until tonight. It's crazy. Indiana hasn't had one since like 94. First-round draft pick.
That was probably what, Randall L.
No, he was
No, he was later.
2001. Yeah. He was drafted in like the 2nd or 3rd round. I forgot who the guy was in 94, but I think he was like a receiver. It's crazy. Zay Flowers, wide receiver out of Boston. That's a good pick. I mean, the thing is that Lamar Jackson has to stay healthy. It doesn't even matter if he's playing the best football of any quarterback in the NFL. He can be top 10 and still be worth the money for the most part, as long as he's playing in the playoffs. He's missed so many playoff games for Baltimore that it's made it really tough to actually be worth paying him this. He's been hurt a lot. And I'm actually really surprised Baltimore gave him the contract because, you know, they had another contract with him like last year and he didn't take it and he decided to hold out. And he got more money, so credit to him for getting more money. But, again, he's been hurt so much, I don't really blame Baltimore for not really wanting to do it, but they did bite the bullet and pay him. It's not going to be worth it for them at all if he doesn't stay healthy.
It was wide receiver Thomas Lewis to the Giants
in 94.
Hey, man. Oh, man, that's so amazing. 3 wide receivers in a row. I mean, Jackson Smith-Jigba selected by the Seahawks. I mean, you're going to have a great dynamic duo for Geno Smith. And Chargers getting Quentin Johnson. I mean, that is fantastic. And the Ravens getting another toy for Lamar Jackson. That is so awesome. You know, Zay Flowers, man, it's wow. Vikings, I think, honestly, the Vikings are going to get a quarterback. I think this is where Will Levis gets drafted. I mean, I really wanted to be Hendon Hooker, but it's not going to happen. That's looking more like a day 2, day 3 kind of pick.
If he wasn't injured, he would have been first round, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that's used against Hendon Hooker. I mean, if you're all, oh well, you know, that ACL injury. Okay, you didn't look at his stats for the 2022 season, and here's the stats: 27 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions. That's a guy you want to have as your future quarterback.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think overall, looking at Hendon Hooker, I mean, when you're a guy that's like going to be drafted first overall and you get hurt, you drop a little bit, but it's because Hendon Hooker was probably going to be late first round, mid first round. Since he got hurt, that's what drops him further. I don't know if anybody remembers, you know, Jake Butt, the tight end from Michigan that year. He got hurt in the bowl game. That was like before you had the opt-outs. He played in the bowl game as a tight end. He was supposed to be like a 2nd-round pick. He dropped to a 6th-round pick, and he barely played in the NFL. And ever since that, then they haven't really – players been opting out more than ever. That was back in like 2015.
I mean, I get it with Hendon Hooker, but here's the other thing too that I don't think many people think about. Did you ever hear of Hendon Hooker until this season?
Yes.
No, I mean that's a good point, but I mean,
nationally. I mean, yes, like you would have because you and probably you guys follow SEC football religiously, whereas me, I'd never heard of the dude until Tennessee was actually good this year. And I don't follow SEC religiously. Yes, it is some SEC hatred, but I'm slowly trying to reel that out of my system
Mm-hmm.
because to do this, to your point, we have to be unbiased.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's possible. It's tough. It can be tough if you really love a team. But, I mean, yeah. But to your point, I mean, that's a good point. But Hendon Hooker played at Virginia Tech. And Hendon Hooker at Virginia Tech was average. And I don't know if it's because of the team he was on, but he played at Virginia Tech for 3 seasons and he was okay. He transferred to Tennessee, lit it up. And the thing is you look at someone like Will Levis. The only reason why he was picked potentially to be a top pick by experts is because of his 6'4", 230-pound frame. He can run the ball. He's big, and he has the ability to throw at a high level. But if you look at Will Levis' stats, they're not great. Hendon Hooker's stats were much better, but he got hurt. But I think that's why both of them have fallen, because both of them didn't have like the complete upside. The only reason Anthony Richardson got taken 4 is because Anthony Richardson is just that good of an athlete. I mean, he's almost Cam Newton-like in the run game, even though he doesn't have that Mack truck ability like Cam Newton had. He's not that big where he can just steamroll everybody, but he's fast. I think if Will Levis had been taken 4th, Anthony Richardson would have fallen, but I don't think Anthony Richardson would have fallen as far as this. But he would have fallen. But Will Levis fell further because he either was going to get taken by the Colts or he was not going to get taken by anybody, as it has been shown. And like you said, Mike, I think that, Hendon Hooker, Jackson as well, the fact that he wasn't really known about at Virginia Tech and he only had 1 good year, it's harder to base that on. I think it's like you look at Michael Penix. If he has a great season again at Washington, combine that with the great year he had at Indiana, and then the 2 years he's going to have great at Washington, that's why he could be a top pick, even though he's tore his ACL twice and broken his collarbone. I mean, he's been hurt several times, but he's had also great seasons of football back-to-back. If he has another great year, he's going to have 3 great seasons of football. That's a lot of tape. Whereas with Hooker, like you said, he wasn't great at Virginia Tech. He's solid, but he was only really good for 8 games at Tennessee.
So my question, I guess, for you would be, I know we're basically jumping a year ahead here, but what do you think of the 24 class? Because everything I gather up here, and yeah, it's either bleed scarlet and gray and nobody else matters, or you don't know football around here.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to stay away from the second part of that group. A lot of people are looking at it like, it's basically Caleb Williams and nobody, maybe Drake May. But I mean, if you go down the list of the class, you have, Caleb Williams. That he's going to be your number 1 pick. You have Drake May. He's probably going to be the second quarterback off the board. You have the guy that I absolutely despise because he just likes to run his mouth, J.J. McCarthy, who can back it up, obviously. That class looks decent. I almost would say, though, that this class looks better overall than that class because to me in that class, in the 24 class, you have one guy carrying the entire class.
Oh, for sure. But USC Nation is going to be really happy with this. But Jordan Addison is drafted by the Minnesota Vikings.
Do you think that Jordan Addison would have been drafted higher if he stayed at Pitt?
No.
Probably not.
I mean, it's an interesting argument, but he was, doing really good. They're getting a lot of yards. I know Keaton Slovis wasn't as good, so he probably wouldn't have got as many yards thrown to him. But he was – sometimes when you're at a smaller school, sometimes, when you're the best guy, you get seen more. When you're at USC and there's so much talent on the team, sometimes you get lost in the shuffle, I think. But I just feel like Jordan Addison was, talked about more at Pitt, ironically.
I mean,
when he was at USC, he was talked about less. I mean, I'm not saying he would. It was just a question I thought was interesting. I don't necessarily think it would have mattered either, but it just seemed like he kind of just fell a bit.
But yeah, I'm thinking honestly, the Vikings, the fact that they're drafting Jordan Addison, adding, another weapon for Kirk Cousins is basically showing us, okay, Kirk, we believe in you for the 2023 season. We're giving you one more chance. If you can't do this,
I don't know.
In the 2023 NFL Draft, The Minnesota Vikings select Jordan Addison.
Miami, 5'11", 173. I think that his size turned a lot of people off. He is really thin. He's really small in the weight department. So I think that's part of the issue. But I'm telling you, when he was at Pitt, people were talking about him so much. And then he just kind of like goes to USC. And even though he's drafted, I mean, hey, you're drafted 24th. That's awesome. It just kind of seemed like people stopped talking about it. I think part of it had to do as well with the fact this was a deep wide receiver year in this class. So many great receivers. We haven't even had a safety taken yet, I don't think. I mean, I know corners and safety are technically the same, but.
And you know who's still on the board?
Well, Dalton Kincaid is still on the board.
The Jaguars are going to get him.
I think
wrong, though.
If the Jags don't get him, I think the Bengals are going to get him at 28 because we're already at 24.
Do you think Will Levis is going to be taken tonight, or is he going to be waiting until tomorrow?
If he doesn't go tonight, he's definitely either going to be a day 3 guy or he's going UDFA.
No, he's not. He's not falling that far. He's not falling that far. Did the Jaguars trade the pick?
Jaguars, it just came across. The Jaguars have officially traded the pick to the New York Giants.
Yeah, the G-man.
You know, I think part of the problem, too, is location.
Yeah.
Why we're all ahead of each other.
Yeah, it is. I'm behind. It's like you guys are a little ahead of me. Jeff says Ball Celtics win series 128-120. Celtics, they got it done. They beat the Hawks.
Let's go.
The Ohio State says, yep, East is all set for second round. 76ers versus Celtics and Heat versus Knicks. Still crazy with the Heat and the Knicks. Still crazy.
That Heat Knicks series, I'm not telling you what to do, but if I were you, I would call most of those games because this is going to be some crazy games.
I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun for sure.
I'm going to be
in, of course.
The Sixers, man, they're going down. I mean, yeah, if there's one thing that Doc Rivers cannot do right, it's the playoffs. He always goes down on the playoffs when he shouldn't.
I don't know, man. I think if the Sixers get out of the semifinals and get to the Eastern Conference Finals, I do think the Sixers could probably make it to the finals.
I don't.
Either way,
finals.
Because here's the thing:
the Celtics don't beat them in 5 games. I'm telling you, man.
The Ohio State, the 76ers can't get past the second round. They haven't made it past round 2 since 2001. It's been a long time, and Joel Embiid, his health is going to be a factor. I mean, if he's healthy, I mean, there's a shot. But if he's not, then no. The Celtics will win the series because they're just not going to be able to – they're not going to have enough offensive ability.
What were you saying, Buckeye?
Pick is in. I don't know.
That's okay, man. No worries.
I mean, anything's possible. I just don't think it's good on the Sixers' part to rely specifically on one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Cleveland from when they drafted LeBron to when he left the first time. You basically rely on one guy. You don't really build around him. When you do build around him, you give him an old lump of tard.
I mean, the thing is that you got to build around and have a team. I mean, like the Celtics, even if they don't win it all this year, they have a team. They've got Tatum, Brown, Horford, Williams, 2 Williams, and Grant Williams, Robert Williams, Derek White. They've got a team. Marcus Smart. I mean, they got a team. I mean, they that's all you can say. They have a lot of depth. Jeff thinks Celtics and Heat will win round 2. Interesting. I think the Knicks could beat the Heat. I mean, Miami got it done, but I don't know if Miami's going to have enough.
I think this is a good point.
Butler will take the Knicks to 6 or 7 games. Yeah.
But the injuries are catch up.
If the Giants are going to get Jonathan Mingo or Jalen Hyatt or Cedric Tillman, maybe Jaden Reed, because it does say that the wide receivers are big need for the Giants.
And
I'm surprised that Mayer's still available. a tight end.
Oh,
He thought a lot of Notre Dame fans thought he'd be taken in the top 15. He's still
well,
available.
yeah. Well, good buddy of ours. Probably not too happy about it. But on the bright side, he'll be a draft steal.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I mean, it's better than Indiana right now. That they are lucky if they get a player drafted this year. They've had 9 years in a row a player drafted, but right now Cam Jones is probably their best bet, and he's probably gonna be a 6th or 7th round pick at best. But if he's drafted, will be the 10th year in a row Indiana's had a football player drafted. But I mean, hey, Mayer, if he gets drafted late first round, still good.
Right. So they say that the pick is in.
Jada
But
says Jimmy's taking them all the way, and Jeff says true, but the Jimmy magic they continue. But back to this old Depot, man. Him getting hurt again was so tough, man. I mean, he has been hurt so many times. Sad.
Well, it looks like they're getting Deontay Banks from Maryland. So,
Corner.
Yep.
Can you explain to me? 'Cause I have watched it over and over and over again. I still do not understand what happened. Can you explain Tyler Hero's injury to me? What happened? Because when you look at the video, it literally just looks like diving for a loose ball and trying to get it before it goes out of bounds. Did he like smack the floor the wrong way and like break his hand, or what happened?
I think his hand swiped the ball as it went by. And when it did, it just like messed it up. I don't know how to explain it. But I mean, when you're tense and your hand's like in motion and then you run into something, it's almost like if you try to catch a football and you jam your finger because you don't catch it the right way. It's like that, but maybe just caught it in an awkward angle and it just messed it up. Because I mean, I agree that it doesn't look like he would have got hurt on something like that, but I just think it was one of those things that it was just a freak play. Like the Ohio State said, yeah, it didn't look like Hero even got hurt on that play. It must have been a very awkward angle when he went after the loose ball. I agree.
Well,
I mean,
I think Tyler Hero is going to need a hero before the end of the night. That's for sure. So that is for sure.
We've just crossed 3 hours. The NFL draft is 3 hours long now.
24th pick to the New York Giants. With the 24th pick in the 2023 NFL draft,
Deontay
the
Banks.
New York Giants select Deontay Banks.
6 foot, 197 pounds out of Maryland. I mean, he's a good player. He's definitely a guy that kind of raised up late in the draft. No one was really talking about him until recently as a first-round pick, kind of like Witherspoon, but he didn't rise up as much. But it's always interesting when you see a player that no one really talked about, and then they rose the like even Will Levis to an extent. No one was talking about Will Levis the year before. It's ironic to me when Will Levis had his better year at Kentucky, no one was talking about him as a first-round pick. But then this year, when he had an average year, is when he's being projected as a top 5 pick of the draft. That's interesting to me. Doesn't make any sense.
Ain't much that makes sense in this life.
No. Well, I mean, any draft picks watching this show, they're sitting there going, "Oh well, I feel like I failed because I'm not first." No, you haven't.
You gotta be kidding me.
If you're thinking, "Oh, I'm failing because of I'm not a first round." Look at the history of all the drafts, and
Before
you're a draft steal in each and every one of them.
Before you ask again, yes.
Well, Buffalo Bills a little trade, but as the great Swami always says, no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Jaguars trade pick to the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not gonna. That means they're not getting a quarterback. Josh says, "You guys think Booker could take them all the way? What do you think, Jeff?" I don't know.
Not so.
I think Booker is really good, but I just feel like the Suns don't have a big enough bench.
Suns are done.
They need a bigger bench. I really
realistically, they should have lost the series to the Clippers. They were lucky.
If Paul George and Kawhi Leonard played, yes.
I'm going to be honest. I don't want it to be the Lakers winning, but I kind of have a sneaking suspicion the Lakers are probably going to win.
If they can get past Golden State next round, yeah, the Lakers are winning it all again.
Golden State for sure.
Clint Moses says 6'4", 230 pounds. NFL's been drooling over in prototypical quarterback dimensions. I completely agree, but I mean the thing is that Will Levis was not healthy this past season. He was banged up a lot of the year, and he did not play that well when he played. I mean, you can probably name 10, 15 quarterbacks in college football that played better than him last season. I mean, he just was not performing that well, and I think that he was a guy that outside of the prototypical size was not. He shouldn't have been, in the discussion of a top 10 pick. I mean, he's a good quarterback. I think he could have success, but even Richardson, I mean, the potential's there. But I think Richardson had more potential, more upside than Levis, and that's why Richardson ended up getting taken by Indianapolis, and Levis is still sitting here.
I mean, so to me, here's what it comes down to, and maybe this is, the natural thinking with all the stupid coverage, so to speak, that Levis got. Okay, if you just compare the guy nicknamed after a gun to Will Levis. Nickname gun has higher potential. He's had better performances. Yes, he's had some sluggish performances, like a crappy performance against South Florida last year. You've got a lot of those. You've got a lot of those over here too. This guy can actually play ball, and he has a cannon for an arm, and he's known for the cannon for an arm. What's this guy known for? Putting mayonnaise in his coffee and eating the banana peel.
Well, I mean, here's the issue. I mean, besides all the jokes between the two quarterbacks, because they are ironic and hilarious. But the thing is, you look at Anthony Richardson, he cannot throw the football intermediate at all. I mean, if he's throwing a 10-yard pass, it's going over the receiver's head. It's going to be a pick every single time. But he can throw the ball deep. Yes, I completely agree. He's got the Cam Newton arm. He's got the cannon. Throw it 80 yards. I mean, that's fantastic. But you can't throw the intermediate pass. I think Will Levis can throw the intermediate pass better, but Anthony Richardson can blow the top off the defense. He can run 80 yards down the field. We saw it like 5 times at Florida where he just ran 80 yards. Levis can't do that. He's fast, but he's not that fast. I literally think that the cannon for an arm and his mobility and being able to run 80 yards down the field is the only thing that got Richardson drafted, 4th overall. Because, I mean, he had like 17, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks. I mean, it's not like he was a turnover machine or anything through the air, but all of his picks were because he overthrew the receiver down the middle of the field every time.
Oh.
He doesn't have touch yet. If he can get the touch, he could be good, but he doesn't have touch right now.
For sure. The Buffalo Bills, there's a reason they made this trade up with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was to select the Utah tight end, Dalton Kincaid.
Very interesting. I mean, I don't think that's a bad move. John said, I think the Lakers will run out of gas soon. Too old. Interesting. I mean, they definitely could, but who knows? Jada says, I agree with you, Jeff. You're right on. I mean, like I said, it's very interesting. I appreciate it, but I mean, it's just one of those things where, quarterbacks, football in general is not like the NBA. We hear all the time in the NBA, you're drafting on potential, you're drafting on upside. That's why a lot of players, like that one guy last year for UCLA, forgot his name, but he was drafted like 29th in the NBA, and he only averaged like 3 points per game. Forgot his name, but that guy didn't even play at UCLA hardly at all. But his upside was through the roof, so they drafted him. And then you got guys like Trace Jackson Davis that might not even be a first-round pick this year. He averaged 21 points per game, 11 rebounds, 4 blocks, 3 whatever. I mean, Jackson Davis should be a top 5 pick based on production, but because he's 23 years old, he's a senior, has the upside, he don't shoot, then he's not going to be a top pick or whatever. NFL, they usually draft the best. It's rare that you're drafting on potential, and Anthony Richardson is one of those only guys that they drafted on potential. It's rare. Even Josh Allen as well, he was drafted on potential. But most of the time in the NFL, you draft on actual performance. It seems like the quarterback position is the only one where you potentially will draft on potential. The NBA is all about potential. I mean, I think potential's fine, but a lot of times the potential can fail you too.
To the Buffalo Bills, With the 25th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Dalton Kincaid, tight end,
Out of Utah.
Bad spot.
And I think that overall, looking at Dalton Kincaid, if he hadn't have got banged up a bit at Utah, he'd have been drafted higher. He was hurt a bit too, which I think that hurt his stock a bit because he probably would have been top 15. I mean, like you said, I mean, he's going to a team that is solid. So, I mean, maybe he'll be able to have success on a good team.
You know,
I mean, it's interesting.
Sorry to cut you off, but
Oh, you're good.
This right here is interesting. They're behind Dak, but
Are you thinking they could draft Levis?
I would not be shocked if they go Levis here, because Dak is getting to the point of you need to find a replacement, because he's the way he plays the game, he's gonna get hurt, and it's gonna be that kind of hurt, and you're going to be screwed.
You want to know? You want to know what Dak reminds me of in an interesting way? I know that they're nowhere near the same type player because Dak's way better. Dak Prescott sometimes reminds me of Paxton Lynch in the fact that when he's in the pocket, he just sits there and he's so large that he's easily sacked, and he's not quick enough to get out of, get from getting sacked. They're not nowhere near the same player. But I do think that sometimes Dak Prescott, he gets hurt too much because he sits in the pocket.
The other thing is, look who's at that best fit spot.
Mayer.
Who just picked? It was Jacksonville. Who's up after Dallas? Jacksonville. What if Jacksonville is messing with us and they're about to double dip on the tight end front and pick up Mayer too?
That's good. Why would they say best fit is Mayer for the Cowboys when they have Schultz? They don't believe in Schultz?
Schultz.
I mean, I know that the backups are young. They got Jake Ferguson and Nate Hendershot, but they're two tight ends that have potential. So it's interesting. The Ohio State, it would be nice to see the Nuggets finally make the NBA Finals. Hey, man, they could. Who knows? John also says, like that pick song play very solid, talking about Kincaid.
Reason why you said about Schultz, well, that's because he's with the Houston Texans now.
Oh, he's gone. Well, I mean, I can't keep up with everything, man. Sorry about that. There's so much stuff going on, man. I'm just paying a lot of attention to college stuff. I had no idea. Well, I mean, hey, maybe Mayer's the guy, man. Maybe Mayer is the guy.
Look, I think that's why he's probably the best fit.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was gone. I don't know why you get rid of him. Maybe he was too injury prone. I have no idea. But yeah, maybe they'll take Mayer here.
Well, I mean, when Skip Bayless is tweeting, crying like a little baby over Jacksonville stealing Kincaid, it's a game changer.
What's funny to me? You have all these NFL teams, right? And really the only owners that people really talk about are Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, the big ones. They don't talk about the Los Angeles Chargers owner. It's like Jerry Jones is like more synonymous with Dallas football than Dallas itself. Like you can't even show Dallas without Jerry Jones. You're watching a football game on TV and there's Jerry Jones up there at the top. I've always thought that was funny because, I mean, you think they would do that with like every owner. They would like show all the owners like, oh, that's the owner for the Detroit Lions. That's the owner for the Vikings. That's the owner for the Wash. Well, they did talk about Snyder because everything happened with that, but you know what I'm saying. I just think it's always interesting that they always show, Jerry Jones, Kraft, like some of the more, famous owners than some of the others. Josh says, what do you guys think of Mayer? I think Mayer's solid. I think the issue with Mayer is that he doesn't give you the potential to be elite. He's solid. Like, he catches the ball well. He's got decent speed. He's a decent blocker, but he doesn't do anything great. He doesn't give you that elite blocking. He's not an elite catcher or anything like that. He's just solid at everything.
Oh, the Mayer would be a pretty good fit. So,
I mean, okay, So there's tiers to this thing, just like there is with everything. You got your greats, your Gronks, your Tony Gonzalez, Dallas Clark. Granted, I think a lot of his greatness is due to Peyton Manning. Then you've got your.
You could use the same argument for Gronk with Brady.
Huh?
You could use the same argument for Gronk with Brady if you want to be technical about it, but
Yes, I should have mentioned that. Then you've got your really good on the brink of greatness, and that little spot right there, that really good on the brink of greatness, that's about where Michael Mayer, and it pains me as an Ohio State fan to say that because I really, 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 sorry, Will, despise the Golden Domers.
So unbiased.
He's really good. He's really good. Michael Mayer is a really good tight end, and I think he will be a perfect fit wherever he goes.
And he was underutilized at Notre Dame.
Yes, underutilized at Notre Dame. He can adjust to just about any kind of playbook. He can catch the ball amazingly. He can he's really good at it. He can run routes darn near perfectly, about like a wide receiver can. His blocking is outstanding. Michael Mayer is like the perfect tight end that apparently nobody wants.
Like I said, I just think it's because he's not elite, and I think he was underutilized at Notre Dame, which hurt him. But he's going to get drafted really soon. It could be right here.
Well, Buckeye Mike, I'm glad you said that the Cowboys aren't selecting the Mr. Mayer because I think they're getting someone from Georgia, Smith, I think.
Nolan Smith.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
Nolan Smith's finally taken. Clint Moses' deep tight end class surprised taking so long for tight end to be chosen with Kincaid. Finding a Kittle Kelsey can make offense dynamic. I agree. Josh would love to have Mayer on my team. Crazy nobody wants him. I mean, I think, again, it's just one of those complicated things. It depends on what a team needs. It depends on what a team wants. Sometimes a tight end teams forget about and wanting that player. I mean, you're going to draft a first-round pick on a tight end when you could get a linebacker, you can get a receiver. I think sometimes those players are prioritized more.
With the 26th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Mozzie Smith.
I got my Smith wrong.
Oh, it's Mozzie
Smith. Yeah. Maisie Smith.
Mistake on that one. Sorry about that.
But you're good.
That's a great pick, Mozzie Smith.
Yeah, I thought you said Georgia Smith, and that's Nolan Smith.
Yeah,
Smith. That's Mozzie Smith or Maisie Smith. That's Michigan. So yeah, they're both really good. But yeah, Nolan Smith out of Georgia. Surprised he hasn't been taken yet.
Yeah, Mr. Smith goes to Dallas.
Top players according to ESPN right now in the best available. We got Will Levis at 1, Nolan Smith at 2, Michael Mayer 3, Joey Porter Jr. 4, Miles Murphy 5, and Brian Branch 6. So those are the guys that could potentially get drafted here in the next couple.
I was going to say, I mean, over the next 2 picks, you got Jacksonville and Cincinnati. I honestly think Michael Mayer is coming off the board within the next 2. Now,
and they say best fits Nolan Smith here on screen.
Now, with the pick that just came in, if you want to wipe everything away, the dude is a beast. He's huge, which you need on defensive line. He come off the edge really fast. He has the leverage on the line. He can shove the offensive lineman enough out of the way, and he has the ability to get off the line quick enough to get to the quarterback. He can blow things up, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do with the Dallas defensive line.
Yeah, and it's funny to me when they always show like Ohio State, Michigan players highlights, and they're beating up on Rutgers and Indiana and Maryland and Illinois, like all the bottom teams in the bid. It's always highlights of them, just beating up on them. It's hilarious. And you got Clint Moses talking about the Cowboys. Jada says he's a big boy. Talking about Smith, he's fast too. He is definitely big for sure. Ohio State's Bengals taking Mayer would be interesting. we need more tight end depth, and we have a history taking Notre Dame tight ends. We took Tyler Eifert from Notre Dame several years ago. I remember him. Is he still playing?
I know somebody. I know of somebody that gets really happy and has a cigar and a cowboy hat anytime Cowboys aren't doing so well. Old Stephen A. Smith. Yeah.
Now, you want to talk about a reporter that's biased? Yeah, it's Stephen A.
Yeah, but
Definitely for sure.
I mean, he's getting paid the big bucks. He's got the right to.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Talk about
saying, most people, are up there and it's unbiased report. Then some they tell who their favorite teams are and do it if it's part of their comedy on there. I think it's funny.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at the original First Take cast. Stephen A. is biased in the fact he's a Cowboy hater. Skip Bayless is biased deeply in the fact that he's a Cowboy lover.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, I dog on him all the time, but Skip, you should see some of his Twitter feeds because they say some raunchy stuff with him and the Cowboys.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm good. The Ohio State says, imagine Stephen A. Smith's reaction if the Knicks win the NBA Finals. And imagine, think about it,
his
talking about the
explode.
Knicks. The first time that the Knicks have won a playoff series since Mike Woodson was head coach of the Knicks back in 2012.
Yeah.
Think about that. Mike Woodson took the Knicks and won a playoff series, man. Mike Woodson.
Oh, man.
It's huge.
Well, the last time the New York Knicks won an NBA Finals was in the 70s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time ago. None of us were here at all.
It was 1973 because it's like, wow. I mean, Spike Lee's going to be happy. Stephen A. Smith's going to be happy. Oh, man. So many more Knicks fans that I can't really think of on the top of my head at the moment are going to be so happy.
Clint Moses is mellow. Yeah. Carmelo Anthony was good back in the day.
Mellow.
Sure.
He was a ball hog from what I heard.
The Ohio State, I remember the Knicks made the 99 NBA Finals as an 8 seed. They're still the only 8 seed to ever make the finals. Crazy.
Yep.
And Josh says Knicks will never win. Well, I mean, hey, they're getting better. You got to give them credit for getting better.
I mean, it's not that hard to beat the Cavs being led by
Anton
Mitchell.
Yeah, we are for sure, Will.
Yeah, I'm just glad that Will Levis didn't go number 1. Everyone kept saying, oh, what if Will Levis goes to the Panthers? Well, he didn't. They got Bryce Young, which I know Mike.
We don't even know if he's going to be first round pick.
I mean, I would have taken Stroud at the Panthers. I would have taken Bryce Young at the Panthers. I think either or would have been fantastic. And we'll have to see which one ends up being better. I hope Stroud gets a fair shake, though, at the Texans. I hope he's not going to get beat up on. Hopefully they'll build a team around him.
Well, playing for D'Amico Ryan, so he's going to have a great time over in Houston.
To your point, I'm not really upset the Stroud went 2 in the sense you probably think.
Mm-hmm.
I've driven to Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
I would have preferred if he doesn't go number 1, like every Buckeye always deserves to go number 1, that he'd go 4 to Indy so I could go see him a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that Anton Harrison is the next pick and he's going to be selected by Jacksonville.
Clint Moses says Levis' mom giving him hugs in the waiting room. Yeah, she's been very supportive. Yeah, and he's trying to just take it in stride. It's unfortunate. Oh man, here's Will. There's Will. I cannot believe Michael Mayer hasn't been picked yet. He's gonna be at least a Pro Bowler. Yes, Will. Michael Mayer is really good. But I still think if Notre Dame had to utilize them more, that might have helped him get drafted higher.
Oklahoma.
Anton Harrison.
Yeah, Michael Mayer. If it makes you feel better, Will, I suspect he's going to get selected by the Bengals.
I think he's just about to come off the board. If he comes off the board, he will have the excellent Dallas Clark Gronk type of career because he will be paired with the perfect quarterback. Now, my only question is, do you think Joe Burrow got screwed like Drew Brees got screwed? He came in at the wrong time. You got a better quarterback that came in before you who's still early enough in his career that he's going to win all the MVPs before you do. He's going to win all the Super Bowls before you do. He's going to win all the Pro Bowls, the first teams, or whatever. I think as good as Joe Burrow is, I think he kind of got screwed when he came into the league when he did because of the abilities of Patrick Mahomes, the greatness of Patrick Mahomes, because nobody can deny, even if people out there hate the Kansas City Chiefs or despise or dislike the Chiefs, nobody can deny the greatness that is Patty Wag Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, he is really good. Josh says, what do you guys think of Jackson Smith? I think he's a good player. I mean, I think he would have been drafted higher if he hadn't have got, banged up and missed the CFP. That hurt his stock a bit, but he's still really good. I mean, what he did in the Utah game is still unbelievable. I almost feel like he peaked there in a weird way. He peaked in that game. Not like in his career, but I'm talking about at Ohio State. He peaked at Ohio State in that game. And if he had had more performances like that, he would have been a top 5 pick. If he had stayed healthy and had more performances like that Utah game, he'd have been a top 5 pick. But he peaked at Ohio State in that Utah game in the Rose Bowl. But he's going to be really good in the NFL because I think he's going to get back on track. As long as he stays healthy and starts to return to that Utah form, he'll be great.
It's not even that. I mean, the type of receiver that he is, the fact you have DK Metcalf, you have the running back.
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, you've got DK Metcalf, you've got Kenneth Walker. Now you add JSN. You're basically forcing the defense to stretch the field and say, okay, we either attack one of you guys at the receiving core and the other guy just goes off on us. If we can hold one guy to 50 yards, the other guy gets 350, 250, 350, that's fine because at least we hold one guy. And if the one guy can't beat us, then we stand a chance to beat you. But if you force and stretch the field, you have to go one-on-one basically and almost pray that the Seahawks don't just take you behind the woodshed. And I don't think there's enough defenses out there that can go one-on-one across the board and spread the defense and come out successful with a win.
Yeah. They're going to get Miles Murphy.
The Cincinnati Bengals select Miles Murphy.
Bad move. Edwards happy, but bad move.
So you think that was the first bad pick of this draft?
I mean, it helps with the defense, but Michael freaking Mayer was on the board. What are you doing?
Hey, you're defending a Notre Dame player. I really appreciate the unbiasedness, man. You're doing good. Will says if we had a better quarterback, he would have been picked already, 100%. The Ohio State's come on Bengals hope we take Mayer, which they did not. Will is upset, and Jada does not like Miles. I mean, hey, don't know the guy personally. Good athlete for sure. He'll hopefully
he majored in construction science.
Hopefully we'll have a lot of success for the Bengals, but I do agree that I think they should have taken Mayer.
I mean, Mayer has such, as you've been saying all night, he's got a high potential upside compared to a low potential downside. He's a perfect fit because you could take Mayer, and I think they still have Boyd or somebody. You can run them like a double cross in the flats and dump it off. And for a tight end, Mayer is on a lower level JSN. Now you're forcing the defense to pull up on one side, on the most likely the weak side, and make the strong side the weak side to double Mayer, which will leave one guy on the now strong side open, and it's like a first down every time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, do you think the Saints will take Mayer? They'll pass up on him.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
I don't know.
I honestly don't know. But Saints seem pretty happy with their QB situation.
Josh says Mayer is a guaranteed catch. Yeah, he doesn't drop many balls. I mean, he definitely, goes out there and he's just solid. Again, he does everything so well. He doesn't have any weaknesses, which is always a good thing with a player, is to not have any weaknesses. He doesn't have any weaknesses. He just doesn't have maybe the elite, category in anything that he does, but he's just very, very solid in almost every category. And to me, that's first round material. So hopefully he finds a way to get drafted here in the last two picks. V. Ohio says, I don't know much about Miles Murphy. I'm out. Great stream as always. Take care. Thanks for being here, V. Ohio State. Really appreciate it. It's been a great draft. We're about to be wrapping up soon as the last couple of picks come out, but still appreciate you for stopping by tonight. Now we have a couple picks left. You think Mayer and Levis are coming off the board, or do you think that they'll be moving on to round 2?
I could see the Saints probably snatching Levis.
They're not. I think they want to try it out with Derek Carr.
Well, I mean, okay, you get Derek Carr. He's automatically the starter. Now you don't need Jameis Winston. Taysom Hill is a better option to have as your backup. Get rid of Winston, and now you need a QB3. Who better than Mr. Mayo and the Coffee Man? If they do not take Mayer, I think the Eagles at 30 take Mayer. It just makes them more stacked on offense.
It's going to be interesting.
I'll tell you what's messed up. If Mayer does not go in the first round, that's really messed up because he has first round potential.
I just think the top of this year's draft class was really good. I mean, I don't know if it's all the way good down to the bottom. Now, there are some really good players at the bottom of the draft too. I think that this is actually just a really deep draft class. I think it is, but the first round is really good.
Oh, 3 more.
So, I've been over here more than I've been live.
Mm-hmm.
Which hat is that? That's who is? Let me
Maulers.
See. Maulers, Pittsburgh Maulers, huh?
The USFL.
He looks like the Mauler looks like a railroad worker.
I think it's supposed to be.
Steel worker.
Oh,
yeah, steel worker. Yeah.
Let me see that again. Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah. Well. I mean, Pittsburgh is a steel city, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And then after Sunday, I'll probably start wearing out my Michigan Panthers hat.
Michigan Panthers have already mastered win total from last season.
So it's crazy, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Still a change at quarterback and coach. We've got the Saints, Philly, and KC left on the board. I think it's funny how they have on here the 29th pick because remember Miami, one of their picks got taken away. But on here it shows pick 30. I think that's funny. Josh says, this unbelievable Mayer's not gone. Yeah, I would be insulted if I was him. Well, hopefully hopefully his mom's hugging him as well, like Will Levis. You need the support. You need somebody to support you.
I mean, not as much as Levis.
No, but still. 125,000 people in attendance for the 2023 NFL Draft. That's a lot of people.
Can it just come back to Cleveland or go to Cincinnati?
Anything that has to do with Ohio, man. I mean, of course, you're going to be happy about it.
Well, if it comes back to Cleveland or goes to Cincinnati, I'll go down there for the first round.
And
With the 29th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Brian Brzee.
Brian Brzee out of Clemson.
Who?
Edward is happy. Brian Brzee is the one they showed on College Game Day that his younger sister passed away of cancer. It was awful.
No offense to Edward, but who?
It was he didn't play a lot. That's the thing. You don't know who he is because he missed a lot of time because his sister was dealing with cancer and stuff, and he was always with her. He missed a lot of time, but he's a fantastic player. He just didn't get to play a lot because of the fact that he had family problems there.
From what we've heard about him.
So I'm actually glad he got drafted in the first round. It's a sad story. You must have not seen it, but his younger sister passed away at 15 of cancer. It was horrible. And he missed a lot of time. They were talking about on game day a lot.
Oh, hold on here. You can't say that and turn around and give me crap for saying Gold Domer. Because now you're doing exactly what you accuse me of doing.
Yeah, but he's doing it in chat. You do it verbally. I mean, it's a little different.
True.
I think it bites a little harder when it's words and out of the mouth than the printed word.
True.
I mean, it's why people always type stuff on the keyboard, but they, there's no confrontation. Like, I'm gonna write this anonymously and just put a bunch of stuff down. You know what I'm saying? It's like I can get away with it.
Well, who are the Eagles going to select this question? Because, I mean, it says that the best fit is Brian Branch, but what do we think?
Yeah, he would be the first safety taken, finally. One actually determined as a safety. The other ones have been corners. They all have said corner, but this one's a safety with Brian Branch out of Alabama. Alabama, man, just so many players get drafted. Georgia as well every year. It's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, we know for a fact it won't be Mayo Man.
No.
Because they got freaking dog Jalen Hurts.
No one thought was actually going to be good out of college because they said he wasn't a good enough passer. I thought he could have success, and I'm glad he is. He's proving everyone wrong.
Yeah, I remember when all the Eagles fans, like a lot of them, one of them in particular that was a bad man years after, of course. Well, a year after, of course, was like literally foaming at the mouth, mad that Jalen was drafted. I'm like, dude, have you not watched Jalen Hurts at Bama and Oklahoma? He's way better than Carson Wentz.
What do you think about Todd's number 4 best still on the board, Joey Porter Jr.? He's definitely got to be a day 2 guy, right?
Who knows?
Oh, he's good.
Well, we know Levis is going to be a day 2 pick because, I mean, I don't see the Chiefs getting Will Levis.
I wonder what it feels like when you think you're going to be a top 5 to 10 pick and then you're in day 2. I wonder how that feels.
Well,
do you guys think that
he's probably mad at the NFL draft scouts experts?
So Austin brought this up, but do you guys think that the JSN fall is injury, or do you think it's just how stacked the class has been this year?
Injuries, because I think he would have been the top receiver taken if he wasn't injured.
But I think it's a blessing in disguise for him because, it's basically showing us that, Smith-Jigba being drafted by the Seahawks, they're showing us that they are serious about getting back into the playoffs.
And sometimes falling's good, though, because you get to be on a better team. I mean, it's always interesting with a player getting into the league. Is it better to be on a bad team, but you get all the playing time in the world, or is it better to be on a good team where you have to fight for your position, but you're on a good team where you can develop behind better players? It's always an interesting argument for sure.
True. I think the second one is better because you don't want to be on a bad team.
Unless you're Devin Booker at the Suns, where you're able to put up 75 in the NBA and 65, 70 points, and then once he got better players around, then he didn't have to score as much.
Come on, Philly. We know you're taking Michael Mayer. So just
Joey Porter Jr. is a good, solid player.
Buck, I doubt that they're getting Michael Mayer because, I mean, they already got their tight end. So, but then again, NFL draft is always funny in some ways. So
yeah.
So,
come on, Philly.
Well, finally Nolan Smith is selected. He's going to be an Eagle.
He got picked.
I think. I don't know.
My screen doesn't even say pick is in yet.
Yeah, I think a lot of times Jackson just guesses, and sometimes he gets it right. Because every time he says it, I'm like, are you already like ahead of us and you know?
That's
and
why
like, no.
That's why the chat was accusing him of insider information.
Yeah, the leaks and sources.
I don't look like an insider.
Hey, I don't confirm anything until I see it on the TV and it says it's in, or it's on. The
there we go. Now it says pick is in.
I just say it, man. It's like, oh, the pick is in, and this is who it is. I mean, I'll make a guess, but I'm not going to go out there and say I know who it is because I have no idea.
Yeah, I learned that mistake.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, if you know somebody, like, or if you work for a company, like, you get insider information, like, if you have, like, people you talk to that give you information or something, like a lot of companies do, but if you don't, there's no way to know.
Right.
I mean, that's why these dudes love working for ESPN, man, because they get, like, the info, and then it's like, you can release it. It's like, yeah, I got the info. I know it when no one else does. It's awesome. And then it doesn't stay with you for long, and then it gets out to the rest of the world. And once it's on social media, it's over.
Yeah. For sure. But
they're showing Jalen Carter was taken number 9. He didn't fall too far, like you said, not too far.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Commish, where you at?
Commissioner Goodum.
The one commissioner that everybody hates with a passion. It's funny.
Yeah. I mean, at least he's not Commissioner Venom, so there's that.
Well, I'm sure you know what I think.
Yeah.
Josh says, what do you guys think of Will Levis? I think Will Levis is a good quarterback. I do. I think that he has upside, but I don't think he had as much upside as Richardson, which is why he's fallen so far. And he just didn't show enough to be, considered, a top pick. I just never thought he did, and nobody's taken him yet. He's still going to be a solid quarterback that could have success in this league for sure.
Somebody in the
I'm not too surprised he's dropped.
Somebody in the second round.
Very special guests, content creators who you know from YouTube. Dude Perfect.
Jada says he's pretty big, talking about Levis.
Donna Kelsey.
Dude Perfect and Mrs. Kelsey.
Okay, Miss Scott, I got a question for you. Sure. So you got both boys playing in a game on TV at the same time. Right. Okay, Travis is there, Jason's there. How in the world do you decide which game that you're going to watch?
Man, I don't know. That's really tough. I don't know. It's just tough.
Who is that?
So we cooked up something a little bit
special. What did you say, Jackson?
I said, who is that on it?
With custom coin with Travis.
I have no idea, man.
On one side.
No idea.
It's Dude Perfect and Mrs. Kelsey.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Mama Kelsey, there we go.
Yeah, remember that they want her to flip the coin. She didn't get to do it, right?
Oh my God! Of course it is.
Good news. With NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV, you don't have to make that decision.
This is funny, man. I love some of the ones they put up there. Like, I thought the Make-A-Wish one was awesome.
She's making the pick.
I love when they do that in some of them.
In the 2023 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith. out of Georgia, outside linebacker, 6'2", 238 pounds. He is a really good player. Georgia has talent.
This pick, we are finally back on some bangers here. This pick is perfect. Speed, flashy, high flying, gets to the ball, will wrap the dude up, and overall, the perfect kind of linebacker next to my favorite linebacker, Joey Porter Jr. Personally, second best linebacker, was just taken off the board. This is overall a great pick, and I love this pick. Number 2 recruit in the 2019 ESPN 300. That should tell you enough right there.
True. I mean, sometimes you can be there ranked that high and you don't end up performing that well, but a lot of times you're ranked right where you should be. Josh says it's a great pick. I do agree with that for sure. But now you got Michael Mayer back being the best fit to the Chiefs again. I don't know.
Well, he could be the success of Travis Kelce, so who knows?
I mean,
that would be pretty awesome right there. I mean, you get to be an offensive weapon for Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that is so.
So here's I didn't even think about this. This is the other thing Austin brought up. With the selection of JSN by the Seahawks, you force the defenses to stretch the field even thinner. Because you don't just have DK. You don't just have Kenneth Walker. You don't just now have JSN. You also have Tyler Lockett. So you are raining with threats across the field. So once JSN gets into a groove and a good fit with the offense, I think the Seahawks are going to be hard to beat.
As long as Geno Smith plays at a high level, he's definitely going to have to go out there and continue to play like he has been. Then, yes, I think they could be a good team for sure. Definitely an improved team from this past season where they went 9-8.
But that would be cool for Michael Mayer if he was drafted by the Chiefs, because that's a big win right there. I mean, getting all those passes from Patrick Mahomes, that's a big.
Now, this is the final pick right here in the first round. Pick 31. The Dolphins lost theirs. Very interesting overall.
I'm curious who the Chiefs get.
They could take Mayer. That would definitely make Will happy.
Yeah.
You know, if the Chiefs take Mayer, it allows them to have Kelce and Mayer in at the same time while having Kelce on the line, stretching Mayer out as receiver.
I agree with that. Makes sense.
It wouldn't be a bad idea, honestly.
Well, we'll have to see what they do.
Oh my gosh!
Really? It's rocking around the clock.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 3 hours and 45 minutes. Man, I forgot how long the first round of the draft was. I forgot how long it was.
The second, day 2 and day 3 are even long. Day 3 especially is even longer.
Yeah, they're longer for sure, but they do the picks quicker on day 3 sometimes because there's so many of them.
Yeah,
sometimes they drag it out. It just depends.
A lot of times, especially with day 3, it's like announce, and then the next one's, as they're talking about the breakdown of the player, the next one's already on the freaking thingamabob.
And then they start getting backed up, and they'll be starting to talk about players that are now they're like 5 picks down the road, and they're still talking about pick 159, and they're at 165 or whatever.
Honest.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to be honest. I wonder if this year's Mr. Relevant is going to be exactly like Brock Purdy, where they just like come out of nowhere and surprise everybody. That would be so cool.
Depends on who it is.
Either way, that'd be cool if they were to surprise everybody like Brock Purdy did.
I'll tell you what would make the perfect Mr. Irrelevant story if you want to replicate Brock Purdy.
Who?
That guy right there.
Oh no, he's not falling all the way to the bottom, man. I mean, if you want to talk about a quarterback being at the bottom, that'd be like Stetson Bennett or something.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, somebody like that, I don't know if he'll fall that far either. He could. But,
Oh,
I
come
mean,
on, man.
it's not going to be Will Levis. Oh, man.
But
That would be
the
fun.
Eagles really love Georgia because they got that Georgia. They love Jalen Carter as they come for the 9th pick. They got
Pick
Noah
is him.
Smith, and last year they got N'Kobe Dean and Jordan Davis. I mean,
Well, I mean, with the way Georgia's built right now all around, who wouldn't love Georgia players?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you could say the
Georgia,
same thing
Alabama.
for the Iowa defense. There's already been, 2, 3 Iowa defensive guys off the board.
Iowa's defense, that's why I said several times, you're going to get an offensive player of Iowa. It's usually a tight end or an offensive lineman, maybe a running back, but their defense, any position, it's good.
It's going to be Mayer or Porter Jr.
And you think about Iowa, they're doing it with not even 5 stars. They have a lot of 3-star defenders, and they become great. It's awesome.
Well, has done well on defense, but their offense is just a disaster.
I mean, yeah.
I guess
Parents.
you're not going to have players selected if you're 131st in the nation on offense.
How'd you do? You get all worked up?
I mean, if you're going to have a player selected from Iowa on offense, like I said, it's usually a tight end or, an offensive lineman. That's where they're going to have an offensive player drafted.
Well, like Georgia the Jungle Kittle, it's worked out plenty for the 49ers.
Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, you look at Iowa, Sam Laporta is going to get drafted.
Well, the Chiefs finally got the last pick for the first round. Some guy from Kansas State, Felix Underdike Azuma.
Yeah, he's a defensive end.
Yep. He was pretty good, too.
Mm-hmm. Kansas State had some good players. So Mayer didn't get picked.
But he'll be picked in the 2nd round. Will Levis is going to get picked in the 2nd.
And it's unfortunate to not be picked in the 1st round, but at least you're not an undrafted free agent. At least you're still going to get picked very highly. 2nd round is still really good. For sure.
Yeah.
Chiefs fans are waiting to pick. I think a lot of those people out there are tired. You can tell the crowd's not as loud as it was earlier in the night. A lot of people are getting tired. Chiefs definitely are a great organization in the NFL right now. Got a great team. So whoever's going to get drafted, for the Chiefs,
and they are really dragging this.
It's definitely going to help out, the players being able to make the adjustment, being able to be on a good team for sure. I mean, you're going to defending Super Bowl champions.
You really want to make this pick at the stroke of midnight, don't you? Gee.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, they dragged it out long enough, man. I mean, like I said, the anticipation's awesome, man. But I forgot. I thought the first round of the draft was like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I couldn't remember. I didn't know that I forgot. I just didn't think about it. I'm like, man, when the way it was going, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be like 4 hours. I appreciate everybody being up with us. Thanks for being here, everybody, in the comment section. I really appreciate it. But it has been a lot of fun with the 2023 NFL Draft 1st round. But we got one more pick to go.
Here we go.
More pick.
How about it, Kansas City?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Got to rally up the crowd.
The Kansas City Chiefs select Felix and DK.
State. Defensive end, 6'3", 255. And that is your first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. What are your takeaways and thoughts real quick before we wrap this up?
Well, I guess that Will Levis is going to have to wait for a phone call tomorrow night or the next day, or the next day, or the next day, or the next day,
Phone call, Mr. Plankton.
and the next day, and the next day, next day, next.
I'll remember you all at therapy.
Yeah. Goodbye. Well, maybe you're there.
Oh, man,
Michael
that's
Mayer,
good.
he's going to do a lot of waiting, unfortunately. Hendon Hooker, is doing some waiting, but maybe the Vikings get him. We don't know. But it's going to be fun to find out who gets selected in the second round and the third round tomorrow night.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking forward to it as well. Any final thoughts, Mike?
Disappointed CJ ended up at Houston. I think that Houston still got their guy. I think it was funny. The underlier really ended up being CJ. Shocking with some of the trades that we saw tonight.
Texas
I
did
think
good.
overall, I'm
as well.
mostly shocked. Well, that's what I thought, that they were definitely going to go Anderson at 2. And then, Arizona doesn't need a quarterback. So CJ automatically falls to Indy at 4. I think the biggest shocker for me, and maybe a lot of people outside of the holy crap, look who was right shock that Will Levis is not a first-round quarterback, was the fact of JSN falling so far. And I just think, as shocking as it is, it was the right thing. Eventually, I think it'll be proven that it was better for him to fall, to your point. It's easier on your career and on you sometimes if you do fall to a good team or an okay team rather than being at the top with the crappy teams. Like I keep telling my family, if you're a number 1 pick, depending on the team, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up being a bust.
Yeah, that's why with Bryce Young, I mean, I think it would have been worse for him to go to the Texans than Stroud because he really wouldn't have had a chance, more than likely. At least the Panthers give him a chance because the Panthers are not the worst team in the NFL. They traded up for that. They had the 9th pick because they weren't the worst team. Like you said, if you are the worst team like the Bears would have been, either or would have been bad. Bad Fields or sticking with Fields, they're going to have to build around them. But overall, usually the first pick is the worst team. But
they are building some protection for the Chicago Bears, so that's pretty good.
For sure. I think my final takeaways is that it was a great draft, a lot of great players. It definitely shows you that the first round this year had so much talent that there are so many good players that are on the outside going into round 2. I think Will Levis showed that he is a good quarterback, but teams were a little weary of him. And when they took Richardson, it definitely, reduced their chances overall. But I do think that it's very interesting for sure. I think it was a great draft. Really glad that, the Panthers were able to take Bryce Young, even though I would have liked Stroud as well, but I'm glad they took Bryce Young. But a lot of great picks. I think most teams did a good job. Josh is great call, guys. Can out, lots of fun. Mike Mayer will be in the second round, if not picked for sure. He definitely will get picked. I really appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Thanks for being here, everybody. It was a great first round of the 2023 NFL Draft. A lot longer than was expected, but it was still a lot of fun. Great picks for a lot of these teams. Josh says Will Levis is better than half the quarterbacks in the league. He's definitely hot, Will Levis. Don't know about that, but I really appreciate him. I think he could be really good down the road, maybe 5-10 years from now. But right now, he definitely has a lot of work to do. But thanks for being here, everybody. Be back for future streams in the future. It was a lot of fun tonight. It was a great start to the 2023 NFL Draft. Thanks for being here, everybody.